Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Very happy to have you here. I imagine some of you, many of you, or two of you, are watching Super Bowl. I used to watch
Yeah,
football religiously, and then
yeah,
they got woke, and I stopped watching years ago. And I hear it's not much better. I hear, matter
yeah,
of fact, every year goes by, they complain about how soft the NFL's become, how much they seem to be cheating to set a narrative. And yeah, it's not good. But yet the Super Bowl still draws them in. I think
it
it
does.
was the 2023 Super Bowl is like what, number three, number four all time viewed TV in history. So people are still
It's
watching it.
crazy.
Yeah,
I just have no interest anymore, and it's not even necessarily the political stuff. The game got so soft.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the last time I really liked watching it was I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. Probably shit, probably longer than that now.
yeah,
And it was right around that time. Actually, it was a little bit before where they really started to get freaked out about concussions. And I get it. It's bad. It's really bad. But they went way too. They massively overcorrected.
yeah, and they are well
And
compensated.
yes, they know what they're getting in for. Like
Yeah,
this idea that they need to be protected from themselves. Well, then why are they even out there at all?
yeah,
Because, many of them end up with other health problems. CTE is only bad because it makes the league look bad if one of them goes crazy and kills somebody like that tight end did. Um I just it's football. It's
it's
football.
football.
It's supposed to be
Yeah,
painful, right? If you've ever
yeah,
played it,
it's war.
like
Yeah,
at a real right, it's a simulation of war. It's battle. Um, it's supposed to hurt, and I think when you try and hide that, try and take that away, you've just kinda missed the whole point, right?
yeah.
It'd be like having boxing where you're not allowed to punch each other in the head. Like, "What?
Yeah,
What?"
no, it's bizarre. And I mean, of course, I grew up playing football. I played football through high school, and like I
Mhm.
said, I used to watch it religiously. But then it started getting sour for me, and it sounds like I made the right decision because I don't hear positive things about football. I hear negative things all the time. I also used to watch religiously F1, but then they got super woke. And you have
Really?
all, yeah, well, yeah, they got super woke, and I was just, nope, now I'm out. And of course, they had one black driver, Lewis Hamilton in Britain, he was a good driver. He's good. He is
Yep.
good. He's a proper
I've heard of 'em,
champion.
yeah.
But he not only is he a race baiter and a racist, he's a bitch about it, like a little
Well,
bitch.
that's the worst part, right?
It
Like,
is.
that's the worst part about it. Yeah, no, it's a shame because, I used to really like sports, but I think I came to the conclusion that I would much rather if I'm not gonna go watch it in person, I'd much rather either be playing it or just ignore it. Because it's just especially like football is such a time sink. In baseball, that's just a lot of time
Oh,
watching
baseball is ungodly
a
boring,
game,
dude.
especially if you're watching it on TV. If you go to the park, it's less boring. You got the energy of all the
Sure,
people, the
that's always
crowd,
true.
blah 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 blah. That's a lot more fun. But watching it on television, I just can't watch baseball on TV.
Mhm.
I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's my team in the World Series. I'm just like, this is. I want to rip my eyes out. It's so
Yeah,
boring.
baseball's so damn boring. I can't stand it. Soccer is too chaotic because it's your emotion goes up and down all day, and then they never score anything.
Yes, nobody scores a damn goal.
You know, hockey's better because I don't know if
Hockey's
I've
great.
ever seen a hockey game that didn't have a score or five.
Well, here's the
Um,
problem with hockey, though. What checked me out of it was their big strike they had back in the '90s
mm,
when I was a young wee lad, and I was really into hockey back then. I was a Red Wings fan, and they were monsters,
oh yeah,
and I loved hockey back then. It was so much fun. It was aggressive and violent, and it was probably the manliest sport going, even though they're dancing around on them little skates. And and then they started being bitches about getting paid more, and I'm like, come on, guys.
yeah,
Come on, guys.
yeah,
You lost me here.
yeah,
Lost me here. Now, I'm
yeah.
not saying they weren't getting a little bit screwed. At the time, they were. Hockey was blowing up, and their salaries hadn't gone up to compensate. But wasn't it like 2 years or something they were on strike? It was a long time,
Yeah, no,
and I was just
it
like,
was a
"Ah,
big deal, yeah.
come on."
But of course, I grew up in hockey land. But
Yep.
I never really. I played hockey as a kid, but I never. We just played on the pond, right? But
Mhm.
I never really got into watching because I didn't understand a sport the time would stop, the game would stop while two guys would circle around each other, grabbing on each other's jerseys, and the referee would sit there and watch and let them. I'm
Just let
like,
them beat each other up.
what,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, some random moment, they chose to stop and, oh, that's enough. I always, it was just dumb. It's the dumbest thing.
We should
I mean,
formalize the fighting, I agree, yeah.
well, no, just get it out. What the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be professionals.
Put a little cage over here, just let them have at it when they wanna rumble.
So ridiculous, dude. But
Oh.
no, I mean, when the Olympics come around, I'll watch them because it's interesting to see what's up. Recently I've kind of gotten into the canoeing stuff those like because they build like a course for them, and
Yep.
that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I'll watch that stuff. But I don't really watch sports anymore. And there's a lot of little things I don't do. Of course I'm a musician, but I never listen to music hardly because you know for me, I only want to listen to music that makes me think, and
Mm.
therefore I have to be in the mood to pay attention.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
occasionally
Um,
I am.
I'm kinda
Uh,
that way with movies. I don't necessarily I want 'em to do one of 2 things. I want 'em to either be so much fun I can just shut my brain off, or be really, really, really good. So when I'm thinking, it's, part of the experience, right? That's what the
right.
creator wanted you to do. The middle ground stuff, I have no interest in anymore. Um, and that
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just get bored. I think it's because I start to analyze it too much,
Maybe.
and when it's one of those things where it's good enough to analyze, but not good enough to really microanalyze, I think I just get bored with it now, as far as films, anything, TV shows, any of it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just I don't know why. I haven't played any video games in months, except for I played some Marvel Rivals with, like, some friends, but that was just for fun, right? That was
Yeah.
just pop in, pop out. It wasn't
No, that's true.
yeah, I have no interest. I
Yeah.
have
I
no
mean,
interest in it.
I play my sim stuff, a couple times a week before I go to bed. Because I like building in it, you know.
Right.
Because if you really get into it and you get a lot of extra swaps and stuff, which I have, I mean, you can build some amazing structures in that game. It's actually
Yep.
pretty cool. But I play that on my little. I got a ROG Asus convertible, and that
Mm,
just sits on the couch, and it's easy to do. Sitting in front of the computer, I haven't done much in quite a while, because it's either FPS crap, which I don't like. I've never liked it. It's just personal choice, or it's woke, just this constant stream of woke crap. And of course, that's the thing they get into with this U.S. Aid. That it keeps, just every day dropping more nonsense on top of us. We now realize, and I don't know how much you've been following it, but we now know that all of this nonsense, Gamergate, comic books, I mean everything, has been sponsored by Democrats via USAID. All of
yep,
it, every bit of it.
yep.
Because we had speculated several times where the money was coming from, and we know George Soros is heavily involved, but turns out he's sponsored by USAID,
Yeah, it's taxpayers.
right? So the whole
This is what
time
Marxists
we've
do.
been paying for this.
Yeah, this is what the Marxists do. They've done it all over the world. I mean, look at the Chinese. They do it today. To this day, they're
Oh, the
doing it.
Chinese throw trillions of dollars at DEI because they know it messes us up and they want us all to burn so they can rule over us. That's they we
The
that's it's not hard to understand though.
the Anglo-Euro civilization, the people of that have a weakness, and that weakness is we actually do believe in the brotherhood of man. And
Oh yeah,
because of this,
charity and all that
they
kind of
can
nice stuff.
yeah, they can exploit that
Yeah,
by
they do.
exploiting our guilt.
Yeah,
And that's all that stuff is. It's just exploitation of guilt.
it
Whether
is.
there
And
was anything we should feel guilty for or not, if you tell somebody long enough, hard enough, and they don't have the moral character or the intellectual strength and rigidity
yeah,
to resist it, they're going to eventually start to believe it. It's just
yeah.
the way it is.
Well,
And that's pretty much what's happening. So,
yeah, that's true. But the thing with it is, it's one thing. You see, we a lot of people saying, "Well, it's fraudulent," which certainly is. It's foolish. It's that as well. There's a word that's not being bandied about, which I think should be, and that word is treason.
Well,
And that's
I
not a word I
hear,
say lightly. Understand? That's not.
well,
But
especially
it's
considering
frickin'
they've been
treason,
funding our
dude.
enemies, quite literally funding our
They
enemies.
are. I mean, well, yeah, we've seen
Um,
them send. They're sending money for frickin' Hamas. I saw
yes.
a wonderful meme that had showed just one of the moments during the Israeli-Gaza war, where you have these Israeli missiles coming in, and you got Hamas rockets going out at the same time. And
Hmm.
underneath it, it says funded by American taxpayers. The other one funded by American taxpayers.
Yep.
True, right? It's true.
Yep. And it's
Yeah,
sad
it's outrageous.
because
It's,
it
it's
doesn't need
just
to be this
ridiculous.
way. The fact that we have a party in this country, really two of them, but definitely one, that wants to try and guilt trip and shame the American taxpayer because they don't want to fund, oh, I don't know, everything on earth, everything, just everything, is ridiculous. And
Yeah,
anybody
but not well, not
who is
American
supposed to
stuff though.
be,
They don't want to fund that.
well, anti-American, anybody who is against it, or anybody who is, rather, anybody who is supportive of it, they are an enemy to the people of this country. They are an enemy to the nation of America. Uh, because that's so egregiously evil, it's ridiculous. There is not a single group of people on Earth or in the history of mankind that we know of that I've ever seen data on more charitable and generous than Americans.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Well, yeah. No,
It's
we
not even
are the
close.
center of Protestantism. Is that the word?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No. And it's very true. And of course, let's well, since we're talking about it, let's take a look at other humans on Earth and see how they compare, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's take a look. We have a problem with these African and Middle Eastern Muslims coming into Europe, right? All right.
Yep.
So let's take a look at them. Um, and so you got a bunch of people. They come into Europe because they want free shit and maybe better lives. I guess you could give that as a benefit of the doubt. Of course, they immediately show you that's not why they're there. Because
Mhm.
they come in, they steal, they abuse, they rape. We have murders going on. They complain incessantly. It's a not enough free shit. The free shit you're giving me isn't good enough. And of course, they bend over backwards to try to improve it, those Anglos, right?
Mhm.
And then within a very short period of time, they start demanding that no, you can't do that. That's not good for our culture. You have to stop doing this thing that you've been doing forever. And it's insidious as hell, right? But it shows you
Yes.
what kind of disgusting, filthy human are you? Who would do that? You're a guest, but they don't know how to be guests, I guess. Well, who's your mother? What did she teach you? Right? I mean, these are the
Right.
people coming in, and you say, "Oh, that's only a few." Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing pretty much all of them are acting like that, right? So you get these people that have no respect for others, but then again, we know Muslims don't. Go study their history for freaking 10 minutes and come back to
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah. Islam's a problem.
No, they are. It's a huge problem. Join
Yep.
us or die type of mentality. And then, of course, they've had law. Now, keep this in mind. Now, the early part of the history is complete bullshit. They were really
Yeah.
formed 1,000 years ago, not 1400, right?
Hmm.
But nevertheless, there was a early leader, supposedly supposed to be the second one, but I'm not sure how that all fleshed out. His name was Omar, right? And he's the one
Hmm.
who put all the rules in on how to deal with non-Muslims, and they got a lots of different rules. And of course, the Jews get extra special rules. You know
Yep.
those little yellow arm badges that the Jews had to wear in Germany-controlled spaces during the war? Well, you
Hmm.
think that was an original thought? Ha!
No. No. No.
No,
No. No.
they've been doing that for 1,000 years with the Jews, the
It's not
Muslims.
the Germans' greatest strength is original thought. They're really good at innovation, but
Yeah.
not creation.
No, but of course he got that from a Muslim Turkic leader, right?
Yes.
But who talked to him, and of course, because originally, old Adolf there, he was going to, deport them all, kick them all out of Germany. And that guy said, no, don't do that because they'll come to the Holy Land and then we'll have to kill them. You should just kill them here. It's quicker. And he's like, good idea.
Good idea.
Yeah, you ever
What a
heard of that?
plan.
Anyone told you about that conversation? I bet you no one did. Yeah, I bet you no
No.
one did, right? But this is what we've been dealing with these people. They have no respect. It's absolutely disgusting what they've done for the past 1,000 years, and they continue. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say the Catholics were wonderful peoples because they weren't. But then again,
No,
the Protestants fought a bloody resistance
they did.
to get their freedom away from the damn Catholics. And of course, the Catholic Church is much better now than it used to be. And if you could compare the worst atrocities of the Catholic Church to the Muslims, it's not even a comparison,
Yeah, it's not even a
not even
ballpark.
comparable.
Not
And of
yeah.
course, the Muslims have not had it. They're still doing this shit. They still have
Yep.
slaves. They still have dhimmi taxes. They still do everything they do, right? The only
Yep.
reason you don't hear about large number of Jews getting executed every year just for for the fun of the public is because after the nonsense of the war and the last big one, and they all the Jews and the support of the Europeans and the creation of the European Union to protect them. Yeah, that was its
Mm,
point. And put them in Israel. And of course, they offered the Arabs there to stay. They're like, no, we won't take it. And then, of course, the other Arab nations around said, all you get out. We're going to murder all the Jews. Okay. Okay. And they got out. And of course, the Jews won that war. And
Yes.
that's what they're still bitching about. But just keep an eye out. Another little piece of information you might be interested in when you see someone Palestinian speaking or an Arab speaking, pay very close attention to what they're wearing. Right now, a lot of them will have a little lapel pin of the Palestinian flag, which is a new thing, but whatever. But a lot of times, right next to it, you'll see a key. Keep your eye open
Mm,
for it. If that person has a little key on their lapel or on their sash or somewhere on their person, yeah, they're lying to you. I guarantee it, because those are the assholes that think it's their land and from the river to the sea, kill them all, right? The right
mm,
of return peoples, right? But during that period, the international community was trying to get as many Jews out of these countries because they were already treated badly. But after the Jews won that little battle, right? All the other Muslim countries just started murdering all the Jews they had in their lands. Keep in mind, all these countries had tens of thousands, even hundreds, some odd 200,000 Jews in them, but they were just started murdering them because they were angry. They got their butts kicked. So
yep.
the British and the Americans and others were trying to evacuate them as quick as possible. They saved 1 million of them and brought them over to
Hmm.
Israel, but we lost way more than that just for the ire and anger of the Muslim, right? So
Yes.
these people don't think very charitably.
No.
And if you want more evidence for that, let's take a look at this.
Oh, we're taking a look. We're taking a look,
All those
everybody.
Muslims, those Arabs, because keep in mind,
Yep.
they weren't Palestinians at that time. The British called everyone Palestine. Matter of fact, Golden Meir, one of the very first leaders of Israel, that lady, right? She actually
Hmm.
held and had a Palestinian passport because she was a
Mm,
Palestinian. They were all called Palestinians by the British, right?
right.
But nevertheless, um, all those ones who left because the other Arab nations said, "Get out, evacuate over to our places we have set up for you because we're going to murder all the Jews." You remember that, right?
Yep.
Well, they're still there. So what did these loving brothers of Islam do for their Palestinian brothers? They took them in and said, "Come on, oh well, we lost the war. You're part of us." Well, no, they put them in little tent camps and put wired fences around them. Jordan, Egypt, I mean, a whole bunch of places, right? And
Hmm.
here we are, what, 80 years later? Um, do you think things have changed? I mean, it's a long time, right? It's like, they lost, so they're part of our culture now. We just kind of integrate them, right? No,
Right.
they're still in those freaking camps. You think I'm lying? You go check it out. This is the love of the Muslims for their brothers, right?
Yeah.
The charity of the Muslim. All right. So you got that to deal with. Let's take a look here. Let's see. Black Africans, do they have charity? And I mean non
Uh,
Muslim ones. Do we see much charity from them?
no. You see some,
I haven't seen
but not
any.
much.
There's a lot of charity comes in from the whites.
Yeah.
But do they have any charity? Do they take that money from us and build things and do things? Oh no, let's take a look at just South Africa today, right?
Yeah, South Africa's a
Just
mess,
today,
that's for sure.
right?
Yeah.
They are of course put many. There's 140, just so you know, laws, official laws on the book of South Africa that are racist against white people. 140,
Yeah.
right? They just put a
Yeah.
new one in that says, ah, you could take their land as you like because they're whites. Who cares? And of course, they were talking about the white problem here just recently, which is what pissed off Trump. Actually, the land appropriation is, that doesn't help. But what really pissed off Trump was they were having a conversation in their, their Congress, the official, open to the whole public, the whole world to see. And they're saying, well, we've had many thinking of how we could just get these Afrikaans out and we'll just ship them around. Now there are different kind of white people. Afrikaans are considered the poor white farmers. There are other whites that they get angry if you call them Afrikaans. But they were thinking, how do we get rid of these whites? Maybe we can ship them here, or there's been some offers here or there. They're talking about it, and then one of their highest top leaders says, "Why should we waste the money and time? Just kill them." In
Right.
their open Congress, and many of them
Yeah.
shook their head. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, human charity and kindness and helpfulness. It's not much of that there, is it? It's not
Mhm.
much. The Slavs are certainly a little more hard nosed than the Western whites peoples, but they still have charity, right? How about the Latinos, the Hispanics that we see around us? Now they could be very emotional, they could be very Catholic, they could be very loving. I'd say they're
Yeah.
far more charitable than a frickin' Arab, right?
Yes. Especially
Uh,
the devout Catholic ones. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. But at the same time, you see these morons as we speak marching up and down our roads in blue states with Mexican flags saying "Get off of stolen land," not understanding that they're all the ancestors of conquistadors, which I'll
Yes.
translate that into English for you if you'd like, conquerors, who
Yes.
came in and raped out the population. That's a reason why they're all kind of this weird mixed brown caramel color down there. Where if you come up to North America, you look at all the original settlers like me, right? They are pretty much still white, some mixed.
Yep.
But I
Like me.
mean, there it's not widespread at all. You can still find purebred American Indians and like me, settlers and conquerors. We were conquerors later too. But why is that? Because we came for different reasons. The Europeans to
Yes.
North America came to settle. In the South, it
Came
was
to
it was
survive.
soldiers. They were conquering, right?
Yeah.
But you get these
The
idiots
the
talking about it.
northern settlers came largely because they didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
At
well,
least
they were
originally.
escaping the murderous Catholics. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what. That's exact truth. All this was happening at that time, right?
Yeah.
They call it the Protestant Reformation. What a frickin' desensitized name they put on that. But I'm just saying, you have all these freaking idiots, these Central and South Americans talking about, La Raza, and you're standing on stolen land, and it's like, okay, you want to play that game? So are you.
So is everybody,
So is everybody.
everywhere,
That's true.
all at once.
And the Native Americans or the American Indians in the United States, as they prefer, they're
Yeah.
conquered people, dude. They're conquered.
Yes. And they
You
were
know,
conquerors themselves.
of
They're not
course.
innocent.
No, I mean,
Um,
and it's not even the point. But it's just these people getting up there saying that stolen land, and because they in their brain, in their little teeny brains. Keep in mind the average IQ in Mexico is 74, by the way. All right.
yeah.
But these little brain people get up there and they say they literally believe that they're native.
Little brain people. I
Well, they are.
know, it's just a funny way to say it. Yes, no, you're correct.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very frustrating because like I was saying, the I don't want to call it white civilization, but that's the easiest way to put it. is by far the most charitable. Everywhere else
Yeah.
there's civilization
It's a
of any
strength
metric,
and a weakness.
yes, is just not close. Even the Far East, which are, very respectful, at least Japan, very not pleasurable, but very pleasant to deal with most of the time.
Hmm.
They just don't have that same the one thing that sets Christianity apart from all other major religions is the centering of charity as a virtue. Not just
Yeah.
as something you should do sometimes, right? Not just as I practice. This is a virtue. This
Yeah.
is a must do. You must be
Hmm.
virtuous.
Yeah.
And because of that, it changed the culture to where you have this group of people who are, largely Christian. And there are other races that are Christian and have this as well because it's a core tenet of Christianity. It
It
comes straight
is.
from
It's
Jesus
the
Christ
it's the
himself.
the
Uh,
Protestantism. Yeah.
yeah, because of this, it's largely because of Christianity. But even before Christianity, the the Germanics especially were a very charitable people. They took care of their poor, they took care of their sick. The women had relative equality. This was all just the way it was
Mm.
for the especially the Northern
Yeah.
Europeans.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I think genetically, if we look around the world, the the you have the Celts and you have the Aryans.
yeah,
That's the two, and the Slavs are coming out of the mix of the two. Now I'm
yeah,
not talking about the other Caucasian groups. I'm talking about the white groups. I'd
yeah.
say the Celts were probably far more charitable than the Aryans overall.
Yes, yes. The Aryans were much more. What's the right word? Uh,
Conquering.
they definitely conquering, sure, but they had a lot more wanderlust
They
than the
did.
Celts did.
They well,
Yeah,
sure. They were chasing them damn reindeers across Eurasia is what they were doing.
for some reason. Why we don't
Well,
know
that's
why.
their whole life was built on it, right? Their meat, their clothing, and it was just what they did. They followed the reindeer herds. They were nomads. But that's where the Aryans come from, yeah. But yeah, no, I blame it on the Protestant beliefs in charity. Yeah, it's certainly what did it.
Yeah,
I don't think genetic group has any kind of superiority over the other in this regard. Of course, the more intelligent you are, the more charity you're capable of having, I would say.
yes, I would
But
say that's
no,
true.
it's definitely the Protestant way
Well,
is what did it.
it also depends on the environment which your culture evolved in. So one of the reasons they are so charitable is because Northern Europe sucks to live in. It's not kind
Yeah,
land.
you
It gets
have
very,
to
very
work
nasty
together or
cold.
die. Yeah,
You have to work together or die.
it's
Whereas
true.
Africa, there's still yeah, it still can be rough, but a lot of the places in Africa are much easier to live in than it is the North in the Northern Europe.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's one of the reasons why these things happen. I don't think it's, and that obviously affects the genetics and then maybe makes a predisposition towards that behavior, just like anything else, right? Basically, they were domesticated by their environment, which forced them to domesticate each other into a certain worldview. It's probably why the Scandinavians are so chill to this day, by and large. Unfortunately, maybe too much, but
it's
yeah,
too much.
it
Yeah, that's what I
yeah, a
mean.
self-select mechanism.
Yeah, it's definitely religion because
Yeah.
when you see Christianity and other people's, they're doing the same stuff. It's the
Yes.
religion. It's not a genetic thing.
Well,
But the
oh,
it's so important though, as far as how we interact with each other, because even though it's wonderful what all these Protestants do in regards to helping people and all the amazing things they do, it's become our worst freaking crutch though, dude. They're so
the enemy
soft
figured
to
it out.
push back.
Yeah.
It's weakened them to an incredible degree, and everybody else takes advantage of them. I
The
mean,
the
it's just
enemy
the
figured
reality.
out the weak spot, right? They found the
They
kryptonite.
did. They found the soft underbelly, and
And
they're
it
taking
needs to
advantage of it.
change very, very quickly.
Well, it seems like
Christianity
it is.
is not, at least it shouldn't be, a cuck religion, a weak
It
religion.
is though.
It shouldn't be it shouldn't be a religion of weakness because Jesus Christ was not weak. Jesus Christ was very, very strong.
Yeah.
And just because you're charitable, see, this is the problem. What happened is the enemy, whoever you think they are, they corrupted the scriptures and they corrupted the meanings of the words from the scriptures. I'll give you an example. The best one is meek. When Jesus says, "And the meek shall inherit the earth," meekness does not mean weakness. Meekness does not mean ineffectualness. Meekness does not mean pacifism. The meek are the strong. The meek are the ones who have their rage and power under control. That's what meek means in that context. It means the disciplined,
Yeah.
those who are
Well,
dangerous,
people
capable
twist
of
everything,
danger.
dude. I mean,
Yes,
it's the
and then
way it
they
is.
take it
And
into be they take that meekness as weakness, and then now you have a lot of churches, especially Protestant ones, that are quite teaching you that have literally, I've heard them say that you should never be violent as a Christian. There's no excuse.
oh
You should
no, that's
always be
ridiculous. Jesus
pacifistic.
himself was violent.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Booster here needs congratulations, though.
Uh-oh, Boosty.
Well, his government, his people elected a conservative government finally. Took you
They
long
did.
enough. Yeah, they did.
They did, did they?
Yeah,
Interesting.
they did. And so hopefully it'll be a real one and not a fake one. But yeah, this has gone on too much, and it's become a problem, and we're starting to see a pushback all over the place. Now, just like they did with the Don in Europe to try to stop this from happening, they're trying to make conservative groups illegal. They're trying to kick out conservative parties. They're doing everything they can against the will of the people. Just like with Trump, they tried to arrest him, put him in jail. They put a lot of people in jail. The people forget that they arrested and ruined and jailed a whole bunch of conservatives, man, and no one talks
Oh yeah.
about it. Because they're so
Oh yeah.
focused on the attack that was on Trump, right? But Bannon, Giuliani, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Yes.
And of course, they've lost. You can see the zeitgeist has shifted completely,
Yeah.
completely.
Which is good.
And boosters say you work really hard. Good for you, booster. But no, that's good for your country to have something that's, even if it's only like a moderate conservatism, it's better for you, dude. It's just better for
Well,
you.
especially considering that the left all over the world has just gone insane.
It has.
They've gone so far off the deep end. I mean, they are to the point where a lot of them, I genuinely believe, would like us to live like it's 1885 again, and not have electricity and barely any kind of heat and just all these crazy things because they think that's somehow going to protect the environment,
Right.
which is utterly ridiculous. If they were actual environmentalists like I am, they would advocate for technologies that are cleaner, that are better, that are more stable, more efficient, instead of advocating for the removal of technology,
Right.
which a lot of them
Especially,
literally do.
well,
Literally, they do that, which
you
is
know,
insane.
these days, because we don't talk about it, because these nuclear disasters we have were with very old sites, right?
Yes.
Modern
Old,
nuclear
like
technology
OG
is quite
versions.
yeah, really old stuff. The
Yeah,
modern nuclear power plant actually could be the size of your living room now,
yeah,
right?
it's amazing.
It's
It's amazing
it's
what they've done.
amazing.
Yeah,
What I'm kind of wondering with old Trumpy is we know he's really big on the gasoline,
he does.
and that's fine. Let it flow. But have you heard any mention of him or anybody saying, "Hey, maybe we should build some more modern nuclear power plants across America"?
I haven't heard him or anybody as an administration say that, but I'd be very hard pressed to believe somebody like JD Vance wouldn't agree with it.
Hmm.
Uh, because there's just no good argument anymore against it. If your argument is that it's dangerous, well, okay, then you can't be one of these far left climate people because your argument over here is that coal is dangerous and that fossil fuels are
Of
dangerous.
course,
So
they
which is more
use that
dangerous?
to power their EVs, but
Yes.
which is
Which is
outrageous.
more
Boy,
dangerous?
talk about
That's why
a
you have to do it.
talk about an upgrade in vice president, boy. I mean, because I didn't
Vance
know
is
much
great.
about JD. I knew he's the hillbilly elegy guy, but I didn't know anything about him. When I first saw him, it was like he looks a bit shifty. And a couple of first words, just a couple words he said, I was like, oh, he's a politician. But then I've
Yes.
watched his interviews. That dude is a master class on how to deal with jackoffs. He's really good at it.
Yep.
But and of course, we go
He's
compare
just
that to Mike Pence, and I
oh
still
gosh,
have no
boy.
clue who that guy is.
No, I don't think he does. At his
Yeah.
even at his age, he's completely confused
I
about
mean,
himself. Um,
totally. It's like, who is that guy? You
JD
know?
Vance is the biggest surprise so far
Yeah,
because he was
I
one of these
agree.
guys I didn't trust at all.
Yeah,
He was it
me
was
either.
just too easy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then he has done nothing but be an absolute phenomenal second
Yep.
to Donald
Yep.
Trump,
Yep.
and in every way. which is his job. He is the vice president. He's
Right.
supposed to make the president look better
Yeah.
and explain. He was hired because he's such a good orator. He's so good at explanation and argumentation, and he's very good at talking to women, which is very strange because it's not like he grew up as some kind of player or anything. He was just a normal guy. He just happened to be very very smart and come from a very shitty situation, so it pushed him to get himself out of it.
Which he did. Yeah,
Um,
it's an American success story. It's great.
yeah,
But
it's amazing to watch him talk these insane women and men, but definitely the women off these edges, off these ledges, and just be like, okay,
that's
come
true.
back to
That's true.
sanity real quick. Come back to sanity real quick. Let's have like the one that was talking about. Well, it's only been a few of these apartment complexes that have been taken over.
A
He's just,
few, yeah.
are, are
Yeah.
you listening to yourself? Do
Yeah.
you even hear what you're saying? That's insane.
Well, no,
And
it's like what was was it him or somebody said 17 million illegal immigrants. Of course, it looks like it's closer to 24. But and then of course the CNN commentator is like it's only 14, as if that's better.
as if that's better. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's silliness. It's great to see a guy like Mr. Vance, because he's basically me. We're the same age. We're from a very similar situation, growing up poor in rural Ohio. Very similar. The only difference is he decided he wanted to go do this thing and that thing, and I decided different paths. But I'd say we're probably even very close in like IQ and stuff. It's very interesting to watch him because I really respect the way he handles himself, the way he
Yeah.
carries himself. It's difficult at that level. I mean, he's at the highest possible level of scrutiny besides being president. And because he's the number 2 to the most controversial president of this century so far, um he's even at a higher level of
It
scrutiny,
is, yeah,
right?
but he's doing good, and it's easy to see
He's
him
doing
get
really good.
voted in as president next time.
I
It's
could see
it's
it.
easy to see it. And it kind of looks like there's no stink on it because I would assume that I would have heard something by now. I haven't heard a
Yeah, we
damn
haven't heard
thing, not a
anything.
single thing.
No, they've tried a couple things here or there, and it just doesn't stick because he's just too normal. He can talk to people like, they're people and not like a politician,
Yeah,
and
no, it's
it
great.
just
And
takes
of course,
away all their
Trump does that
weapons.
amazingly as well.
Yeah. I
But
actually saw a compilation earlier. Apparently, Trump, right after he got elected, because he does this from time to time, he went to a hospital and was visiting people, and a bunch of the nursing staff and the doctors and stuff were recording him and thanking him for coming, and it's just real nice to watch somebody, the way he interacts with quote unquote normal people, because he's the same guy. He doesn't switch it up. I mean, the only thing he does is he's a little kinder to them, right? Than he
well,
is
sure, he's not at
the
war, right?
right, right. He's got his swords down, but he's the same guy, and it's very refreshing to have that. When you go from Biden, who didn't even know who he was from time to time because his brain is mush, the poor man, and I say that with all sarcasm. Um, you go from Biden to a guy like Trump, who, for all of his faults, and he has many, and I've criticized many of them, when it comes to he's not he's not switching up on when he's talking to normal people. That's a huge plus to me
Well,
because
dude,
that's what really matters, in my opinion,
right.
because you get to see more of his character as a
Well,
person, not
even when
as a
yeah,
character.
yeah, but even when I was a kid, they called Donald Trump the blue collar billionaire, right?
Yes,
Because that's how he is when
right.
interacting with people. I'd never even heard that about Vance. But and they don't get it. The opposition doesn't understand Trump. It's like, okay, Trump has ego. We all know this, but they don't understand the type of ego he has. So look at
Right.
the attacks. They're completely lame and done, dude. It's so done, right? Which is great. But what they're trying to do is they keep trying to mention, oh, Elon's in charge. They put him like in Time magazine, sitting behind the Resolute desk, and Elon's in charge because they think they're trying to put a divide between them, because they think that Donald has the type of arrogance that an ego that they have. He
Hmm.
doesn't. And if
No.
you paid attention, if you actually listened to the man speak, you would know this and therefore have a better strategy, right? Trump's ego is not that he's competitive with everyone around him. That's not his ego. His
Mm,
ego is the pride, proud papa ego, right?
right.
He goes out and he surrounds himself with the best people about it, and they go have success. And his ego is his pride in his choice. I did that. That's the kind of ego that Trump has, and it can be
Yeah.
annoying, right?
It's
But
quite,
it's but
quite.
well, I'm just saying, but they don't get it. They think he's got the type of ego that they have, that we'll drive a division between them by making it look like we think Elon is more important than Trump, and he won't like that. Dude, you haven't been paying attention. That's not how the dude operates at all.
No. And Elon has been nothing but completely loyal to the
Yeah,
point
and
on
he's like a
Twitter the other
freaking
day.
puppy. He's like his son.
Yes. Exactly. That's what I was about to say. On Twitter the other day, he literally posted that he loves Donald Trump as much as one straight man can love another straight man. Uh, and it's like you don't get it.
Yeah.
They don't have to agree on
Trump
everything. And
chuckled and said, "Oh, okay."
there's one big thing that they definitely don't agree on, which is the climate change stuff. But that's okay because they agree on the things that I think matter the most, and that is largely just that the American people have been getting ripped off.
Yep.
And we're tired of it. And I
Yep.
actually think I've been watching some of the things Elon's been reposting. He's been in my circle, my area where the parts of the internet that I sometimes hang out in, where certain nationalistic right wingers hang out. And remember, I've been warning you about potential of civil war and how it might be coming and all these
Sure.
things for years. Uh, I think he's in tune to that, and I think one of the reasons why I think that is because one, he's surrounded by a lot of the loudest voices in those spaces, and two, I think he wants to avoid it. I think
I
if
think we
nothing
all
else you
do.
can say about Trump, well, yes, but a lot of people want to ignore it and pretend it's not real. Uh, I think if nothing else you can say about Trump as a politician, as a president, is he's anti-war. He's been that staunchly
Yeah,
since day
he don't
one, to
want
the
that.
point
Yeah.
where he gets booed on the stage at the debates with all the other Republicans because their donors are in there, the war party, talking about how terrible George Bush was and Iraq should have never happened.
It shouldn't
And he's
have.
correct. He's completely correct. Uh, and that is the one policy that he has wavered on, not nil, is that specific one. He is anti-war. He tries everything he can to de-escalate situations. Sometimes it looks like he's escalating, but he's not. He knows what he's doing. It's called the door in your face technique. It's a negotiation tactic, and he's the grand master of it. He's the best in the world at it. I'd say he wrote the
Mhm.
book about it, uh, and that is why I think he is. That's why you get a JD Vance. That's why you get a young guy, right? A young gun who's really, really smart. He's, a decent looking guy. He's, got a young family. He's new to Washington for the most part, so he's not as corrupted as all these other people. Uh,
Yeah, he's got a nice
and
family. It's good optics.
that's why you get exactly. That's why you get these people. Vance definitely has been in the circles I've been in because of the way he speaks. I know he has for a fact. I've seen him there before he was the vice president or a senator. So these, what I'm saying is, I think they have a certain mission to alleviate the stress on the American people before things get really bad. Because
Yeah, maybe.
everybody who's here knows it was getting bad,
Yeah.
real bad. And I think that's really the main thing that unites them is they both simply believe in the idea and the people of America
Well, it's quite
more than
clear
anything
his
else.
the team he's chosen is very much wants to fix the situation. That you can see.
Yes.
Oh, by the way,
Yes.
it's 45 minutes in and I screwed up. I apologize, everybody. I had a very
Uh-oh.
important shout. I had one job, a very important shout out, and I have forgotten to do it. I will correct that mistake right now. Big balls, brother, young man. You keep going.
Welcome back,
I'm
Mr.
behind you,
Balls.
big balls. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Mr. Ball. No,
Yes.
that was really good to see.
Yeah.
The fact that the right wing pushed back, the internet right wing pushed back, which is who got Trump elected. Let's not pretend otherwise. Pushed back on this against Elon and against all these people who, they told him to fire this kid because he made edgy posts on Twitter years ago or whenever it was. Um, and they said, and Elon listened, straight up listened to the people. He put out a poll, which is what he should do, I think. And that's the exact right decision. And the people are like, no, bring him back. Just
Yeah.
bring him. No, bring him back. We're not going to do this anymore. This is stupid. We're done.
Mhm.
If he can do his job, let him do his job. Nobody really cares what he says on the internet.
Well, he's freaking what,
And
19?
I think this one was in his 20s. I think he's like 25, but still, I mean, come on.
Whatever. And
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
still
even
silly.
worse because that means it was 9 years ago that he made that comment because they said he
Yeah,
was
it's
16.
still.
But they're kids, and
Yeah,
they're freaking geniuses. Let them do what they're doing. And of course, I love all the outrageous fake rage coming out of these.
yes,
It Pocahontas is the absolute best. They
it's
give
amazing.
that woman an Oscar. Okay.
She's so
Uh,
good.
yeah, so good. But and it's funny because of course all Elon and his team are doing is sitting with people from the department. By the way, it's not
Yeah,
that they're in there. It's not like they're in there by themselves, even which they could be. To be fair, they have the right to do that, but they're not. They're with people from the department going through with them, just simply data mining all the information and pulling out suspicious stuff. That's it. They're auditing the government, and we should have done it frickin' decades ago. And here's the thing. Now I know some of you guys aren't Americans, but for you Americans, just keep in mind how much more rage is building on this, because
yeah.
not only have they been stealing us, and Elon and his team has announced that they have 4 decades of corruption. Huh? This
Hmm.
isn't 4 years, 4 decades of it. All right. But keep this in mind. Not only do we have a congressional committee on oversight, we
Yeah,
have a freaking department out of the 440 that's job is to audit the government,
yeah.
which we pay for,
That's right.
and don't do their job. It took them
Simply
what,
do not.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Absolute
And
fuckers, dude.
the best thing
Absolute
about it with
fuckers. That dude, that you tell me that ain't treason?
it's if it ain't, it's pretty close. It's getting real close to that legal definition of treason. The best part about it for me is Elon went in there, and because for all his faults, Mr. Musk, he understands the financial networks and how to
Oh
manipulate
yeah,
them
it's
and
what
how
he,
to get what he
dude.
needs out of them.
People forget who
He
they say, oh, he's the
created
idea guy.
PayPal.
Yes, he is. But you forget where he comes from. He's the dude
Yeah,
that built PayPal.
that's right.
Hours
That's
sleeping in the office, himself building PayPal. He
that's right.
knows this shit. And the thing
He
that
knows
kills
money.
me, he's the richest man on earth as we speak, and he's sleeping on a freaking couch in an office because he's so autistically focused on finding all the corruption.
Committed. Committed
Unfreaking
to it.
believable. Claps for
It's
Elon, dude.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Claps.
But what I was getting at
Autism
is
is
because
powerful. Weaponize that shit. Trump's a genius.
but because he does know the ins and outs of financial machinations,
Yeah,
we'll
he
call
does.
it.
Yeah.
He figured out very quickly where to press, where to squeeze, and he squeezed, and they freaked out. They
Well,
lost their mind. The deep state and their advocates did, and that's a good thing because if these people are screeching, that means you're over the target.
he said, he and his guys, when Trump dropped his executive orders, they sat back and just monitored how many of these agencies followed the order. And the
Yep.
ones who pushed back the most, made the most noise, and didn't, that's where they went and looked. USAID was the most noisy. Of course, now we know why. And dude, I don't even think they've hit the tip of the iceberg on the corruption and that shit. But here's the thing: how many offices out of the 440 departments? Now, to be fair, 75 of them are kind of defunct, but of those 440, how many of them right now are burning freaking records and bleach bidding freaking hard drives? Do you think?
Oh, you have no probably nearly all of them. For
Yeah,
being honest, like
yeah.
yeah, a good portion, a very good portion at least, and that's what we're talking about. It's I'm not ever going to sit here and pretend I'm some great Republican, right? Me and Chester agree we're not Republicans at all. Not
No,
really.
no.
I'm not
I'm
going
a
to sit here.
conservative,
Yeah,
and maybe a libertine when it comes to like social issues.
yes. And we're not going to sit here and pretend that we're, one way or the other about that. It's got nothing to do with whether Trump and his team are Republicans. If they were Democrats and doing the same thing, which by the
Dude,
way,
this isn't a
there was
Republican
a
thing.
time. Well, here's what I'm saying. There is a time, there has been a time where Democrats did do this thing.
Yeah, they used
There's
to.
been times where they've gone in and done certain,
It's
inspections and
flipped.
audits on the financials. Somehow, some way, they've just completely abandoned the concept of fiduciary responsibility with the American taxpayers' money, and that is unforgivable. You cannot have a government that behaves that way for long, because eventually you just won't have a government. It
Well,
will bankrupt
it's
itself.
because the Democrats got all bought up by the Transatlantic Banking Consortium. That's why. That's
Pretty
what
much, yeah.
happened. And of course Soros gets a lot of the heat, but he's just a forward-facing
Yes.
aspect of it. It's not, they created a coalition and they absolutely hammered the American banking coalitions that were pushing against it. They're gone. They're obliterated, dude. Right?
Yes.
Because many of those American businessmen and bankers just got bought out. I don't know how it all happened. We'll probably never know. But it's all that Bilderberg stuff. And
Yep.
they have their plan. They have their plan. We've talked about it on this show many times. And like I said, some of them within there are just greedy bastards, but some of them I think are probably true believers. They really think the only way humanity will survive if we cut the population down by 90%, yada yada yada. They're probably, I think they're true believers. But it
I
doesn't
do too.
matter. That's what's happened, and the Democratic Party has been completely consumed, they are not Americans. They do not serve the American purpose. If you look at just this trivial fraudulent bullshit coming out of USAID, and trust me, that is nothing, right?
No. No,
That
that's a
trivial
drop in the
bullshit
ocean.
shows you they don't care about America at all,
No.
at all.
It is nothing but a piggy bank to
You know?
these people, a place to just milk
And
dry.
what a freaking
And
piggy bank! Look what we can do, dude.
oh my gosh,
Isn't that
could you
impressive?
imagine? Could you imagine if we could put that money to, I don't know, helping the American people?
Oh, you mean
Crazy.
like Teddy Roosevelt? Let's
Yeah,
build this, that thing, and the other. Oh, you mean
yeah,
like that? Oh, yeah. It'd be
yeah.
great, wouldn't it?
Or like Eisenhower, for all his faults, he at least did get the highways done.
Well, yeah, he built an entire highway system. How much you think that
Yeah.
would cost in modern money?
Oh, oh my God, probably $20 trillion,
It's
to
a
be honest.
ridiculous amount of money, but they had
Yeah,
it.
and he got it done. And he
Yeah, they
got it
had it.
done.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we're talking about. There's no excuse. This is why I'm not a libertarian, because there's no excuse. If they're going to collect these funds, which the better solution is they just stop doing that. But since that apparently isn't on the table as of yet, hopefully we get to that point. Why are we using this money to fund anybody else but Americans? Why? I don't need the federal government, nor do I want the federal government to be a charity organization. That's not the job of the government. The job of the government is to secure the future of the American people.
Yeah, yeah.
That is their
Let
job.
the charity do their job. Go right ahead. I mean, if
Get
Democrats
out of
want
the
to
way of
have
them.
charitable monies and get donations, which clearly they can get, to go do all these transgender stuff, dude, have at it. Have at it. You're right. But stop using taxpayer money. No,
That's
we
right.
could easily balance our budget and get things done, take care of our infrastructural absolute decay that we have, and we could actually do real charitable work around the world. We could actually help people instead of abusing and taking advantage of them, because that's what they're doing. They're not helping these people. They're trying to destabilize their governments. They're trying to create stress and rebellion amongst their people. And they're just trying to destabilize the entire planet. That's their plan, right? That's the only reason you would go into one of these Muslim countries and to try to spend millions of dollars on teaching gay. Yeah, the
Yes.
Muslims are gonna love it, dude. They're gonna
Yeah.
absolutely appreciate you.
By far
It is gonna be on, Roger, you're right.
the most singular anti-gay or anti-queer or anti any of it group of people on earth are the fundamentalist Muslims, or just really Islam in general. It's not even really close. And the fact that anybody thinks that that's a good idea is ridiculous. Like, nobody with a brain that's functioning
Mhm.
would ever sit there and be like, we need to teach the Muslims to stop hating gay people. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
good luck.
It's good
They're
that you're
pretty
using
devout.
your money there well, well
Yeah,
spent. But
you would actually
it's
be better spending your money helping the gay people get the hell out of there if you were going
you
to do
would
anything.
be.
Yeah,
And old Trumpy there, is he over 70% approval yet?
he's at 50. I think it was
Oh, no,
54
no,
or
he's in the
55.
60s for sure. He's in the 60s for sure. I know that.
Well, that was a CBS poll. Let's see. Let's do the old Google.
He's got to Google it. I do know that when it comes to immigration, well, everything that matters, everything that Trump is actually talking about, all those things, the Democrats are sitting sub 20% approval on those things.
Oh,
Overall,
it's
they're
crazy.
31%, which is pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Okay, so CBS poll. So it depending on how you do it. So his overall job rating, which is kind of a fudgy way to say it, yeah, because that could mean anything really. Overall job rating is 53% on this new CBS poll as of basically came out today.
Hmm.
However, if you look at the things that actually matter most, because that largely doesn't matter, that's just pure opinion. When it comes to this is the one of the other questions they asked is Trump and campaign promises, is he doing either what he promised or different from what he promised? 70% of the people agree
Yeah.
that he's doing what he said because largely he is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. That's far more important because that's what the people voted for. Now, me personally, when I was, when I'm in support of him, it's more about screw the Biden administration because they murdered my father.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another
Period.
issue. Yeah. But
Period.
yeah, no,
And
I
I'm
can't
not
wait for
alone.
Bobby comes in because once he's mad. And when let Bobby in, I'm just gonna sit back and you watch the smile on Trump's face as he unleashes that freaking bulldog. Right? It's got to be beautiful.
59% of the American public, according to this poll, so 60%, if we're being more honest, approve of the way that they've been deporting illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
64% of the people approve of sending U.S. troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. Let's see. The detention centers are unpopular. Trump's handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict, most people approve of that by
Hmm.
54 to 46. Um, but however, which here's what's weird. So this is why these polls are weird. So most people approve of the way he's handled it, but then you ask would the U.S. trying to take over Gaza would be a good idea, bad idea, not sure, depends. 13% says good idea, 47% says bad idea, but 40% says not sure, depends. It's kind of eh.
Yeah.
Here's the
And it
crazy
was
part.
kind of a thing that he said anyway.
Yes. Here's the one of the crazy ones though. Trump's focus on lowering prices is not enough. Most people agree it's not enough, the right amount or too much. So 66% say not enough, 31% say right amount, and 3% say too much. Here's the problem with that is he just got in. He hasn't even been in there a month
Oh,
yet.
no, no. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
gonna
It's
it,
going
it
to take a
really
minute.
when it gets to the point that people are actually making more money and they feel that with the inflation's coming down, all those things, when that happens, you're going to see a even bigger shift. And
Yeah.
Roger, he says, RFK, don't take away my flaming hot Cheetos with lemon. You're a sick man. Flaming
And this
hot
is where
Cheetos with lemon? The
this
hell?
is the most divisive one so far. And they
Hmm.
did this on purpose, of course, because for some reason they all hate Elon now. Elon Musk and
They've been told
Doge
to.
influence over government operations and spending should be we have a lot, some, not much, or none. 23% say a lot, 28% say some, 18% say not much, and 31% say none. This is one of the problems with these sorts of polls is well, as much as I love the American people, they're stupid.
Yeah,
They're not
because
smart.
the answer is none.
Yes, the answer
The answer
should
is
be none,
none. No, because it
but we
is
don't
none.
live in that
He
world.
has no
Yeah,
control over anything. What are you
well, that's
talking
true.
about?
That
He's in
is
a
true.
completely advisory situation. He
But
has
in a
no
perfect
control over
scenario,
anything.
yes, in a perfect scenario, the answer would be none. This shouldn't have to happen. None of this should have to happen. There should be no Department of Government Efficiency. The richest man in the world should be building
Well, I
rockets
just
and
told you we
robots.
have a congressional committee and a freaking department for that, but they're not
Ex-
doing their job.
Exactly my point. So the correct answer should be none.
Hmm.
But as I say on here all the time, we don't live in should land. We live in Island, and in Island, the corruption is so bad that even the agencies and departments that are supposed to prevent such things from ever needing to exist have been corrupted.
They're all corrupt.
And
I mean, is anyone
yeah,
surprised? Is anyone here
no,
surprised that politicians in a gigantic, the biggest, most gigantic bureaucracy on earth are corrupt? Anybody?
yeah,
Of course we're
no,
not. We know they are. That's why you need a constant auditing of the country to try to keep a semblance of balance,
yeah, yeah.
right? We this kind of thing that's going on right now that they're that the and you notice, show me a Republican that's sweating it all.
No, no,
And
not
you
at
know
all.
why? I'm not saying they wouldn't take it. These kind of handouts that are the Democrats are getting. It's that they haven't been allowed. They've been locked out. They know that it's like Trump. The reason why you can't find any shit on him because day one when he went in Manhattan when his daddy told him not to, he was on his back foot because they're trying to get him. So he had to play clean, 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 or they would have got him long ago, right? And that's the Republicans have been forced in that situation. That's why you see all of them smiling, not sweating a bit, because they know their hands are not dirty in this regard, right? And notice I haven't
Right.
seen any of them pushing back up against the Board of Education, the Pentagon, none of it. I haven't
Yes.
seen a thing other than old Mitch McConnell, but Mitch McConnell, I'm not sure really knows where he is.
Well, he doesn't. He's very old man. He should be somewhere in Kentucky enjoying his old age and his spoils
Yeah,
from
and a
his
couple of
life.
raggedy old women.
Yeah, but he should not be anywhere
No,
near the levers of power. One of the good things about the
send
last
Turtle Boy home.
cycle, one of the great things about the last cycle is there was a surge, and Trump, for all, again, got to give him credit on this one, a surge of bringing in younger voices, of bringing in some youth,
Which he's
some
done.
people who
Yeah.
aren't, 70, that aren't old like him, because he's a very old
Well,
man,
we got
Trump.
big balls.
Uh,
He's
we do got
representing.
big balls, yes. But we have JD, we have Tulsi, who are about the same age. A whole bunch of, I think that
Boy, she
Stephen
didn't
Miller
age
guy's
as
about
well
the
as
same
him,
age.
though, huh?
Well, she is Polynesian. We have a lot of these people, and that's a good thing. That's what one of the biggest complaints that our boy Ben and I share is how many of these people are just old as dirt. They're crusty. Like apparently the Doge team, because they're all young, hyper autistic, super nerds. Apparently these guys have been complaining to a lot of the so-called senior staff in the government because they're all 50, 60, 70 years old and they can barely work email. And it's like, why are you in charge of what should be the most technologically advanced country on earth? Why are you in charge of it? You don't even know how to work anything. And you could say, well, Trump probably doesn't either. Yeah, but I bet you none of these guys know how to work Twitter. Trump can at least do that. He can at least do that. So the old guard has to. They're literally dying. They have to go away. And one of the great things that Trump has done, in all fairness to him, is he's tried to bring in a younger, not too young, but a younger voice to the government because unfortunately, a lot of these people are very, very old. They're unbelievably out of touch with reality. And the something as simple as the internet that we're using right now for this show, Chester, what you're doing, they'd be completely. You'd be speaking ancient Sumerian to them at this point. That what you're
Right.
pulling off here, they'd
I
never be able to
can
pull
do
this
that.
off. I know you can. That's why I said it. They'd never be able to pull this off because their brains are just, they were raised and grew up and became adults in a world that simply doesn't exist anymore. Most of these people, Chester, grew up and were raised kind of like you in an analog world, right? You came of age right when the digital stuff started to come in the 80s. And these guys were already of age in the 60s and 70s, some of them. I
Right.
mean,
No, of
these guys
course.
are
No, it's
old,
true.
old.
They're old. They're old. And
Yeah.
chat moderators.
Uh
Roger's trying to sell me crack. That's illegal. Deal with him.
oh.
Okay. But yeah, no, it's a wonderful circus. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. It's fun. It is also irate irating. Can I use that word? Enraging, I guess would be the word.
Enraging, yeah.
Because it's just full on treason shit that's going on here, dude. It's When I first started hearing things come out, condoms to, I know, all right, it's just corruption, right? The money is being funneled to certain people, right, for certain things. I get it, right? I get it. But the deeper this goes, and we haven't even really gotten into anything yet. This is just USA, which is what front facing part of the CIA. It was created initially by Kennedy back, what, 61, 62, or something like that, to
Yep.
deal with to try to have an opposition to Russian propaganda, communist propaganda in America during the Cold War. That's what it was created for.
Right.
And
Right.
fair enough. But of course, it's been twisted to now sell communism. How interesting how things go like that. Just like the
Funny how
UN
that
was
works.
created to protect the Jew, and look where we are. But nevertheless, um, it's just the treasonous acts that are going on. And I know when we get into the Pentagon, someone's going to have to explain to me. And I'm dead serious. I'm going to send a freaking letter. I want to
Yeah.
know why in the hell a freaking hammer costs $43,000.
Well, well, we both know that there's well, there might be a hammer out there that costs $43,000, but you're
Yeah,
buying a
it's
much
called
different product.
Mjolnir.
Listen, if it's only 43 grand,
I
I might have
had
to
get
make
me
some
one.
calls.
I had get me one. I could sell a couple of little uh, strips of land and a truck or two. Yeah, I get me one.
I would love to have a Mjolnir. Oh
Oh hell
my.
yeah,
Oh my.
we all would.
You know I love me some Thor. He's my boy. He's my
Thor's all
homie.
well, yeah, he's been abused, but
Oh,
I love him too.
a bit. A bit. Yeah.
But and that'll be interesting to see how that shit shifts as well. But because I we know there's going to be some pushback, right? There's certain companies that aren't going to give up. The corpos are going to give up immediately because all they care about is money anyway.
Yeah.
But you're going to see some diehards, and of course, those companies will burn away and die, and as it should be. I mean, because one of the, this 4 years, I have a feeling is going to be very little about Donald Trump. He'll get all the glory and fame
The
put upon him
attention.
for it, but it's going
Yeah.
to be about the absolute corruption of the American government. And what's going to happen
Hopefully.
is you're going to get tons of lawsuits are going to come in, and it's going to be a problem,
Yeah.
because you know when once we start getting into deeper things like what happened during the Obama administration, let alone the Biden one, there's a lot of really dirty things I think went on.
Oh, he's talking about going back to Bush. We're getting deep. We're going to dig. He talked about looking into the funding for the Iraq and Afghanistan wars.
Yeah,
Now that, my friend, if we go into that rabbit hole, there might not be a bottom to that abyss.
right.
We know this is a fact. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is a stone cold fact. The day before 9/11, the Pentagon admitted they had lost. Just lost. Like you know how sometimes you lose your wallet? They
Mhm.
just lost 2 trillion American
Oh yeah,
dollars.
Rumsfeld's
Two,
announcement. Yeah,
2
two
trillion
trillion,
American they just lost them. Like
and they still have no clue.
excuse me? What does
Yeah,
that even mean?
yeah,
What does that even mean?
yeah.
And they lost 2 trillion American dollars. Now that was before 9/11 and before the war on terror where they took all of the treasure from America and just blew up the Middle East with it and then rebuilt parts of the Middle East and then left. I would love for somebody to explain to me what the strategy was. What was the plan? What was the
Well,
benefit to
the
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 American
plan
people
was
or to the
this:
world?
Papa Bush went
Yep.
in and left things incomplete, and he was getting criticized by some of the rich and powerful kings over there in the Middle East, and this was embarrassing. So Baby Bush was going to fight for Daddy's honor. End of conversation.
Yes.
Right?
I think unfortunately that's probably all it was
No, I'm
because
pretty sure
I'm
that's it.
still trying to figure out. See, this was my generation that fought those wars. Why did my generation
Yeah,
have to be a wartime generation?
yeah,
Why
my
did we
brother,
have
right?
to have the trauma of that as our
Right.
people? Granted, it was
Well,
nowhere near as bad as Vietnam, thankfully. Thank the Lord above. Our war fighters are better than they
I'd
were
say it
even
was
then.
worse in some ways, to be honest with you, dude.
In some ways, yes, but I'm talking about the death toll to the American
Oh,
people, right?
sure.
It was far less severe. And it honestly, the death toll that we get from Vietnam is probably not the real one. It's probably almost double that. But regardless, it was a traumatic experience for a lot of
Of
us. I had
course.
friends who went over there. I had people I knew who went over there. I was going to go over there. The only reason I
War's a
didn't is
bitch, man.
because I had a falling out with my buddy, and we both decided not to sign up. We were going to sign up and try to go over there. Just didn't happen. Things happen. We didn't sign up, and there you go.
Right.
Uh, but my point is, this was an entire generation of young men, which JD Vance is a part of, who were raised in this weird environment when we're in our formative years, our early 20s, late teens, early 20s, where we had this patriotism still that we love our country and our country is telling us these are the bad guys, we have to go kill them. And then you hear from the people who are doing it, and a lot of these stories were suppressed, of course, because the machine needed bodies. That they're not the bad guys. Some of them are, but what they're doing over there is just wrong. And they knew it, and that's one of the reasons why the mental health crisis is so bad among veterans, because they knew that these orders were wrong, but I mean, what are you supposed to do? At some
Right.
point
Yeah.
you either have to do it or you get court-martialed and get
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
life ruined.
Yeah.
Um, it's just a terrible thing. None of it had to happen. Millions of innocent brown people in the Middle East did not have to die. It was wrong. And if he looks into it and finds out the funding and the mechanisms behind all of that, and there's even a hint, and we know there's going to be, of corruption, he's going to open an
Yeah, because
absolute can of worms.
he's not a Democrat and he's not a Republican,
No,
Trump.
no, no.
He's on a
So it,
he's on the warpath, he's on a mission from God,
I
and
don't
he's got
care
all the
about
damn cigarettes, gasoline, and sunglasses he needs.
I don't personally care about Trump doing it himself. I wouldn't have cared if it was, say, if Bernie Sanders had got elected and he did it, or somebody else. I
He's a
don't care.
scumbag. It's a corrupt
It
shit,
just
Bernie Sanders.
needs to be done. The
Mhm.
American people have been raped and pillaged of their
Mhm.
wealth and of their heritage for too long. And the
Yeah.
only way it's going to get fixed is somebody's got to go in there with a machete and start hacking and slashing away from these budgetary weeds and get to the root cause of it. And the
Mhm.
fact that the fact that this has become a partisan issue to me is insane.
Right.
How do you like getting ripped off? How do
Yeah,
you
no,
like that?
they're because they're guilty and idiots are
That's pretty
idiots.
much it. Yeah.
But you mentioned something earlier that I think we should probably, hover over a little bit. Gaza.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people saying that that was an offhand statement from Trump. I don't know that he makes those.
Yeah.
In the beginning when people said that, it was like, okay, but the more I pay attention, I don't think he makes offhand statements. Now, and I'm going to throw a little bit of TFT on you here, just slight, not enough
Uh-oh.
to run the,
Tinfoil time,
yeah, a
folks.
little
Put them
bit.
on.
Now,
Hats on.
there's some things that are going on outside of the normal world you might not be aware of. It depends on how religious you are, really. But
Yep.
there's a few factors when it comes to Gaza that you might want to understand when it comes to prophecy in regards to the Jews and the Christians.
Uh-oh.
Now, like I said, unless you're a deep religious person, you wouldn't know this. But
Yes.
the rebuilding of the temple,
Mm-hmm.
Gog Magog, all those kind of things like that. The
Yes.
absolute timing of what Trump is doing and how things have worked out, the 4-year gap, all that stuff, it's perfect in their prophecy, dude. It's almost as if it's a Lego piece or the puzzle piece that
Mm.
you couldn't find, right? And they're
Mm.
all hyped up on it. Keep in mind the red calves have returned to Israel. That's why the October 7th happened. Keep that in mind.
Yep.
Prophecy. These people are supernatural true believers over there. All right.
They are.
Now, here's the thing with the Gaza thing. There's a character involved in this that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Now, Trump's got a bunch of kids, grandkids, and stuff like that. He's got one daughter there. Her name is Ivanka. She's a hottie, an absolute babe, right?
She is,
And
yes.
she
Very
married
attractive.
herself a handsome little rich, a super smart rich boy. Keep in mind, her husband, he don't need Trump money. That guy's going to pass Trump give him a decade. He's going to be way past anything Trump ever did, right? And I'm sure Trump
Probably.
loves that because he doesn't
Oh,
have to
certainly.
finance him like he does some of his other kids, right? Now
Yes.
Don. Now keep in mind, old Don Jr. He ain't playing. Don Jr. is like, oh, you're demaking Republicans. Well, shit, I'll open a bank.
Which is what needed to happen.
That's what needed to
That's the
happen.
solution.
But so old Don's got his shit going on. He's taking after Papa. But
Yep.
there's a dude there that no one's paying attention, and his name is I think Kushner,
Jared
right?
Kushner. Yeah.
Jared Kushner. Now you're
Yep.
like, oh, he's just Ivanka's husband. No. He's
No,
not.
he
That
is a
dude is
very interesting man.
ridiculously connected.
Yeah,
His daddy and Netanyahu are best buddies. He grew up with Netanyahu. He's directly connected to the royalty of Israel, if that's such a thing.
yeah,
He's also an absolute freaking genius. No joke, right? Absolute genius. The Abraham Accords, which Trump gets all the credit for, fair enough. It was his presence that made it happen. Jared's the one that did all the legwork. He's the one that did all that. That's
yeah,
Jared's doing. He's highly religious. He's not
he is.
slightly religious. He's highly religious, right?
There's actually a lot of rumors that he converted Trump to Judaism, or Trump converted because of him. There's rumors of this. There's no actual hard evidence, but
Uh,
there is rumors
I
of it.
think old Trumpy's just kind of a classical Christian.
I
But
think
who
he's
knows? Who
probably
knows? Who
very
knows?
deistic.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
I
But
mean,
I'm
I would hope
sure.
so after that bullet almost killed him. I'd hope it get him some religion.
Well, I think it did. We all saw that, and we can tell. He said
Yeah.
even Don, who is a Christian but not so much of one. Trump even said this in an interview, but he said even Don got religion after that.
I imagine.
But his son, right?
Yeah.
But the thing I'm getting to with it is this: these Zionists, these Jews. Now you can argue whether that they are 100% the Ashkenazis are 100% from the Khazars, which I think they're almost all Khazars. They've certainly
Mhm.
been intermixed with after the Ottoman Caliphate came into play 400 years ago and basically just
Mhm.
started butchering Jews. And so many of them ran away and escaped into the north and, of course, into Europe. So I'm sure there are
Right.
a mix of actual original Hebrews in there too, that have
Somewhere.
intermixed over time. Sure, fair enough.
Yep.
But uh, you know, they've been playing the prophecy game for centuries. Okay, this is
Mhm.
what that that 6 million dead in fire, the flaming Holocaust. That word is used very specifically. Holocaust. This isn't some random thing. We could say catastrophe, we could say genocide. That's the word we would normally use, right? Genocide.
Mhm.
But we don't.
Mhm.
We say Holocaust because it implies fire, right?
Yes.
Because it's prophecy. And that 6 million number is very important to the Jews, right? So we don't know how many died. We certainly know a lot did. And right, most of them didn't die to any fire, by the way, or any kind of weird kill the Jew thing. They were in prisoner camps, which they shouldn't have been in, but they were worried about them causing trouble and being a fifth column within the country whilst they're making war. That's why a lot of them ended up in those concentration camps, and they just basically starving to death, just like the frickin' guards and the locals around, right? Because
Yep.
it was an ugly thing. But I mean, that's the reality. So not a lot of
Mhm.
them actually died by fire, but they don't ever use this terminology. It's always 6 million dead to Holocaust. And
Yes.
keep in mind, they were trying to push this Holocaust idea for decades before that war ever happened because it needed to fall within their prophetic timeline.
Didn't know this is where we're going, but okay. Go
Well,
ahead.
I'm just telling you the truth. And this can all be
Yes.
conformed with newspaper reports, diary entries, journals, interviews with rabbis,
I've seen them.
etc., etc. This is
I've
not my
seen them. Yeah.
opinion. They've been pushing
Yep.
this prophecy shit for a long time. The return to Israel. They have this big, giant plan of prophecy and the return of the Messiah and the rebuilding of the temple. Now, here's the
Correct.
thing a lot of people think that the temple needs to be rebuilt on the Temple Mount. The
Right.
prophecy says nothing of this. Matter of
That is
fact,
true.
the prophecy of Gog Magog actually talks about it being built in the foreign held lands of the Southerners. What does that mean?
Yes.
Well, the Philistines, of course, held Gaza for a very long time. That's why it's called Palestine today. The Philistines, of
Yep.
course, were Cretan Greeks, right?
Yes.
But um, you know, my point being, and of course, to be fair, because they're playing on prophecy and they're kind of idiots because they're so focused in it. With
Mhm.
the Temple of Solomon it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. If you go back and this is aside, this is a point that I need to make for accuracy's sake. If you go back just a couple hundred years, few hundred years, and look at the maps going all the way back to Roman time, because we have maps going back thousands of years, guys, right? It's
We do.
actually a hobby of mine to study maps. I love it. You should do it too. Cartography is
You're
amazing,
such a
right?
nerd, but yes,
I
go on.
anyway, but we have many maps of Jerusalem. Of course, the thing's been around 10,000 years,
It's been
right?
there a minute, yeah.
Um,
Been there a minute.
and of course, in all of them, we see the on some of the maps they just have it's written as like an above map. Other maps they actually will have little. They used to love to put little pictures of important sites of the maps in the location. Right? There are so many maps that show the Temple of Solomon, and it is the Dome of the Rock.
Correct.
So the Temple
Correct.
of Solomon hasn't gone anywhere; it's still there. Anyway, aside from that, inside their prophecy, they need to rebuild the temple. Now, a lot of
Yes.
people have pushed Gog Magog be Russia. There people just like Atlantis. We know exactly where
Russia and
Atlantis
China.
is, but of course
Yep.
it's sitting in China, what we used to call Cathay. But however, for their prophecy, that don't work. Gaza does.
Could.
Gaza does.
Could be.
And if you think that Jared Kushner is not 100% there in his ear about that whole Gaza thing, and if they rebuild that, you think they ain't going to put a temple in there?
Oh, I would be very surprised if they didn't.
Yeah.
Um, I do find it interesting that Trump, puts this out there that America is going to take control of Gaza territorially, uh, largely for building and colonizing and blah 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 blah. And then immediately, all of a sudden, all these other countries are want to play ball. Um, that's actually probably the best option because the only
Well, it
other option
is.
here,
No one has an option.
the exactly the only other option is just endless murder and
Yeah.
death. Nobody wants that, I would hope, except for psychos. And I don't want us involved in it at all, to be honest. That would be, America's best option probably. But we've seen what happens when we don't do something. If we don't at least try to bring peace to that war torn crazy region, it always escalates further. And it's done this, like you were talking about, even way back at the reformation of Israel, the country. It happened then. All the Arab nations tried to attack Israel. They failed, but they all tried it. Uh, these sorts of things continue to escalate, and it's just a terrible, terrible situation for everybody involved, including the Americans and American people. And a lot of people were getting mad at Trump for it because they're like, "This is a terrible plan." Da 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 da. But as typical with Donald Trump, that what you see is not what you're going to get. What you see is what he wants you to see. The man is a master manipulator. He just is. There's no if you don't like that, fine. If you do like that, great. The truth is in the middle. He's a master manipulator. This is how he became so wealthy. This is how he became one of the best marketers to ever live, because marketing is manipulation. Um, so what he is doing here, it's never as straightforward as it seems. And what I believe he's doing is he's doing one of his classic feints. He says, "We're going to take it over," and then that forces everybody to come to the table. And while once they're at the table, they'll work out a solution that has a little bit less of our involvement. He did the same thing in Syria before Syria collapsed. He did the same thing in Syria when he was president. They kept trying to push him to send more and more troops into Syria, if you remember. And all he did was a very targeted strike of missiles from the Mediterranean, I believe. Very targeted strike of missiles to basically an abandoned airfield, just to show them,
Well,
listen, we can
Ivan-
do more.
they said
Uh,
Ivanka was in his ear. Interesting.
that too. Ivanka was in his ear,
Well,
but
that
my point
means
is
Kush. That means Jared was in his ear.
exactly. But my point is, it's what he does. The same thing he did with North Korea. What he did with North Korea, which a lot of people didn't like, but it worked. He got Mr. Rocket Man's respect, Mr. Kim's respect. Um, is he told him no. He basically just said, "You're being a spoiled child. Enough. You want to make threats? I can make bigger threats. You want to talk? We can talk." And eventually, they
Right.
just talked,
Yeah,
and it worked
in
because
which it worked. I
that guy
mean,
wanted
strongman
validation.
tactics. Yeah, he
Yes, the
did. He did.
strongman
He did.
tactics work, and I think that's what we're seeing here. I hope, because I really don't want America, definitely not American troops anywhere in that
And
region if they
neither
can
does
avoid
Trump.
it.
Neither does
Yes,
Trump. He's been
yes, I
very
agree.
emphatic about that. But I mean, let me kind of finish up on this Jared Kushner thing,
Okay.
because you got to understand the situation of what's going on with this hardcore push for prophecy coming true.
Yeah,
Prophetic truth. These it's very specifically the Ashkenazi, right?
yeah,
Which they call Zionist, right? And it's not the Sephardics, it's not the Mizrahi, the Sumerians, or the Druze. It's not them, right?
No.
It's the Ashkenazi, particularly the Zionist Authority, that have been really, really pushing for this prophetic stuff. And of course, we come full circle. What part of this group is Jared Kushner?
Mm,
Where does he fall in that? Well,
it's a good
he
question.
is not only Ashkenazi ethnically, his daddy, and of course his daddy's buddy, Netanyahu, and all of them, they are the elite of the elite of the elite of the Zionists.
Yeah.
So, my point being is Jared Kushner has been pushing for a very long time on the Abrahamic Accords and all this kind of stuff, and he's directly connected to all the prophetic stuff because he believes it, right?
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this Gaza thing is going to happen much quicker and in much bolder manner than people are expecting. Because a lot of people threw off that, oh, it was just an offhand remark from Trump. I don't think it was. I think Jared's
Mm-mm.
in his ear about that. We know what Jared
Mm.
thinks. And if it is an Ivanka thing, have you ever seen him with her? She love him, right?
Yeah.
And great, good for them. They seem to be a loving couple. But
They're
I'm
happy.
telling you that this kid is wickedly connected, and he
He's
is
smart too.
a true believer, a wicked, wicked smart, very
Yeah.
smart kid.
Yeah.
But then again,
Dangerously smart.
if you step up to Papa Trump and say, "You got a real cute daughter there, I'd like to date her," you better bring something.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, no, I don't know about the whether or not they're trying to. I mean, I think you're probably correct. That's the end game here is to try and force
I'll be
prophecy.
back in a
But
minute. Hold on a second. Go
my
ahead.
only statement to that is the very simple statement of be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Their interpretations of prophecy, in my opinion, of course, being somebody from a Christian background, has been wrong for, oh, at least 2,000 years. Uh, I don't know if they want the answer to the question that they think they're asking. And we will see. I hope they're unable to succeed in this goal because, well, I don't necessarily want the world to end, at least not yet. Uh, it's very interesting, though. It's a very interesting part of the world. It's a very interesting time to be alive. The Trump administration has just been absolutely just rocket up their butt, just doing things. Whether you like it or not, they're doing things, and he's just all over the place. I've never seen a more active first month of a presidency. Because keep in mind, he's still only been president for like 3 weeks. He's still not even done with his first month yet, and he's just done all sorts of stuff. Whether you like it or you don't, it's crazy to watch. And especially coming off the previous administration, which spit on that grave. Um, it's crazy to watch. It's crazy to watch an administration that has a mission. Again, doesn't matter if you agree with it. They at least have a mission and they're trying to execute it, and that's fantastic to see. Because I actually do want to see Americans, or really anybody, but definitely Americans, on Mars. I'd love to see that. That'd be a massive human achievement. The fact that for some reason over the last 30 or so years, 40 or so years, the human mind has kind of abandoned this aspirational idea of what's out there. Why can't we go find it? It's beautiful. I believe God created this universe for us to explore. He gave us dominion over it, in fact, over all of it. He gave Adam dominion over the world and said, "You are to take care of it," which is one of the reasons why I'm so big on protecting the environment. You are to take care of it. It is your duty to take care of it and provide and protect for this world. And I don't believe he just meant the planet Earth. We can see it out there calling to us. He's given us the means to create things to get us there. We've been out there, allegedly, to the moon and back many times. I would love to get to another planet. Let's just see what's out there. Why not? Why not? What's the problem? And there's a lot of problems on this planet we need to fix, and we can. I believe that we can. It's one of the reasons why I am pro futurist. It's ridiculous. I refuse to be black pilled. I refuse to wallow in this idea that it's over, that we've lost, that humanity will never do once again do great things, because it's just untrue. It's simply untrue. The spirit that that is in the song, if you've ever heard the song by the Highwaymen called The Highwayman, funnily enough. If you've ever heard that song, I encourage anybody listening to this to go listen to that song and understand what that song is about. That song is not about a murderer who cannot die. That song is about the spirit in that man, that spirit of adventure. That is the human spirit. And we need to aspire to great things again as a civilization. We have to stop wallowing in the past. We have to stop wallowing in all of these things that just hold us back. I truly believe that we are destined for the stars one day, hopefully. And the first step would be to get to our closest planet, which is Mars. So I really truly want to see American flags, American astronauts, American everything get to Mars. I want to see that. And I think we have a generational chance to finally pull it off in the next 4 to 10 years and get a person, a human being on the red planet. That would be the greatest achievement in the history of humanity. And it would be unbelievable to watch happen. It would unite, I would hope anyway, unite humanity very similarly to how the moon landings did. Whether you believe they actually happened or not is immaterial, the effect was real. And everybody, when I was growing up, where I grew up, we all liked certain kinds of sci-fi. We liked certain kinds of literature that was very aspirational, that was very much focused on tomorrow, focused on building a better world for tomorrow, all of these things. So much of us of our society has become insular, has turned inward instead of looking outward. And I think it's time for the American civilization and the Western civilization and really just human civilization to stop doing that. We cannot fix the past. Can't do it. Simply can't. There's no way to do so. We cannot fix all of the damages we've done to each other. But what we can do is move forward. And forward, I believe personally, is up there among the stars where we could find anything. We don't know. We do know that things like the asteroid belt, if we can get to the asteroids and start extracting materials and minerals and things from them, we can do unbelievable things with that stuff. There's so much up there that I mean, it would basically be a completely life changing situation for everybody. I know there's one asteroid up there that apparently is made of basically solid gold, which is crazy to me. Uh, it, we're very close. I've been saying this for a very long time, and I firmly believe it. We're very, very close to multiple, all at once, world changing technology, similar to fertilizer. The single greatest world changing technology of the last 200 years was fertilizer. People don't talk about it because it became so ubiquitous to daily life. But the reason why there's 8 billion or whatever the number is of people on planet Earth today is fertilizer. That's it. Not electricity, not the combustion engine, not any of that. All that is very helpful, don't get me wrong, but it's fertilizer. It allowed us to harvest and farm in ways we just simply couldn't before at scale we simply couldn't have fathomed before, which allowed for more people. We are on the cusp right now of technologies that are potentially bigger than that, than the effect that that would have. One of them, of course, is fusion power. If we can get fusion power, that is, I mean, that's a complete and utter game changer forever. That so much gets fixed if we can figure out fusion and make it stable, and you know as safe as possible, of course. The other one, of course, is already coming and has already been worked on. Tesla has some other great companies have them. They are large scale, long form storage batteries, energy storage. The reason why that's so important is because generating energy is not the issue. We can do that at unbelievable scale. In fact, it's crazy how much we can pump out if we want to. In fact, the planet is constantly getting bombarded with endless amounts of energy. The problem is capture and retention. It's useless to generate more energy than you need because you don't have any way of storing it. Well, if you come up with, like Tesla has and other companies have, house batteries and giant batteries that are capable of storing fusion cells, capable of storing just obscene amounts of energy, that's a huge game changer because now we don't have to waste so much. The waste goes down dramatically. Plus, like Chester was talking about, even fission reactors, nuclear fission reactors, are much more stable than they used to be, much safer than they used to be, and much smaller than they used to be. This is a good thing. And one of the reasons why I think we should be investing in this technology is because some of the other technologies, as much as the right doesn't want to hear it, the left is correct about. They're dirty and they cause a lot of damage to the world that doesn't need to happen. We have ways of getting around that, of
Mm.
beating it, if you will, and we just simply aren't utilizing it. And one of the reasons we're not is because we allowed ourselves to fall back into this brutalistic nihilism over life itself. And I genuinely think that Gen Z, the generation after mine, there's a lot of that in it, but there's a lot more aspirationalism in it. These are people who want to conquer something. They want to go out and claim something. And that's beautiful to see. Chester, are you back?
I am.
Are you here? Chester is here.
I am here.
But yes, I genuinely believe that that is going we are on the cusp of greatness as a species. And we just have to keep going. And one of the best things we can do all over the world, hopefully all at once, is fix the governmental corruption. It's got to happen.
Mhm.
It's got to
But
happen.
the thing I was getting to was this:
Yep.
these Ashkenazi, right, and the Zionists that ruled them, and Kushner's part of that, is they've been really pushing for centuries to make their prophecies come true, to make them come true, and they have succeeded every single solitary time.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind
They have.
October 7th, which was a horrific day. I mean, let's be fair, right? Was the reason that day happened was because less than a week earlier, a bunch of pure red cows came in from America. Now, for
That's true.
us, we're like, yeah, but for
Okay.
them,
Cows.
yeah, cows, who cares? Cows. But for them, it's a sign. It's a sign of prophecy. And how did Hamas respond to the prophecy? Because keep in mind, they're all part of the same damn religion, right? And what did they do? Well, we have to stop this. So they went and they attacked and they butchered, what was it, 2,000 people or something like that.
Whatever it
So
was, yeah.
now,
Sadly.
sadly, but it doesn't change the fact that that part, the red cow part of the prophecy, has been fulfilled.
Yes.
There's only one
Yes.
thing left: the rise of the good leader who
Yep.
brings peace to the world for 7
Well,
years,
that's what they
and
call
the
him anyway at
rebuilding of the
first.
temple under his watch.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And it could happen. Chester, we could be in those days.
I'm
We
just
could be in
telling
those
you,
days.
that's what they're trying to do. Now,
But
it
here's
doesn't matter
what
what
I
you
said when you
believe.
were gone.
I've said this before. It doesn't matter what you believe. They believe it.
Yes,
And they got the
that's
money and
correct.
power to make this shit happen. Just keep that in
They
mind.
do. What I said while you were gone is the old axiom, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Yeah.
They have been wrong about all of their prophecies and the effect that they would have for at least 2,000 years. And I know this because I believe in Jesus Christ. And they were wrong about him. Since they were wrong about him, I have no reason to believe they wouldn't be wrong about their next Messiah. And it would be a very, very bad thing. Of course, Christians and Muslims actually believe that would be the Antichrist, this person, right? That
Yeah,
would be
but
the scion of the devil, if you will.
once
Uh,
again, people don't actually understand what it is that they believe. You got to keep in mind that the ones who shore up and support this so-called Antichrist are the
mhm,
Jews.
correct.
Yeah, now, and I don't know why they leave that out of all the damn movies and your preacher's
Well,
little speeches. I don't know why,
my
because
preacher did it.
they're the ones that prop him up, right?
Correct.
The
And then he
Jews
turns on
do
them.
that, and it turns on them again.
Yes. Again, which is my point. Be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. And eventually, in the prophecies of Christianity, of course, especially the book of Revelation, eventually the survivors flee to Petra, as it's known in the Bible. We don't know if it's the same Petra of today or if it's just something also called Petra. And they call out to Jesus Christ, and he shows up and saves them.
Yeah.
They actually accept him as their Messiah, and he comes
Yeah.
back to save them.
Well, they
Um,
would, right? Because this prophecy is to bring the Messiah. And as far as the
yes,
Jews are concerned, the Messiah has yet to come.
Messiah.
So his second coming for a Christian would be the actual coming for a Jew. Of course they would accept
Correct.
him.
Yes,
Right.
and that is pretty standard Christian doctrine, pretty standard interpretation of the Book of Revelation, and other parts of prophecy, but mostly the Book of Revelation, the 144,000. Now, there's arguments about that number, of course, but the 144,000 of
It's good,
the Jews who are
Booster.
going to survive. And I've been to the place where Jesus comes back and saves them. I've seen it with my own eyes, at least the place that's mentioned in the Bible. It might
Well,
not
no,
be the same place, but the
let
place that's supposed to be.
let me help you here. I'm going to help you out.
Okay, here we
All
go.
right.
I'm getting help, everybody.
All right. It does not say the Jews will be saved, the 140,000 in the mountain. It says the people of Israel.
Correct.
Now, the Jews literally are Judeans, the house of
Yes,
David,
correct.
right? Of Judah, right?
Christ's house. Yes.
Who are the people of Israel? Where are they now? Well, one of the biggest houses of Israel, where that was the house of Dan. And who is the house of Dan? The Tuatha Dan Nano? That's me, baby. So I don't want to hear nothing from these damn Ashkenazi. I'm getting in the mountain. You got to help.
Oh no! Oh no! He's become a black Hebrew
I
nationalist.
am. I am. That's me. I'm Black Hebrew National. That's right. Black Panther, hand up. Allah. Be grateful.
Oh no!
Allahu
Oh
Akbar.
no! Oh man, that's hilarious. Um.
Well, I mean, I'm not wrong.
Oh man. Listen, all I'm telling you is what the Bible says.
I,
I don't know who it's talking about specifically. I'm just telling you what the book says. All
it
right.
says the people of Israel, not the people of Judea.
But regardless,
It's very
that's what the Bible
specific.
says
Those are two separate
Jesus
things,
Christ is going to do. He's going to show up, save them, kill 200 million of the Antichrist's army, effectively,
which isn't
of
much
nations
these
from all the
days.
nations of the world. 200 million with one word, right? Sword comes out of his mouth, which means he speaks something and destroys them. Maybe he Godzilla's them. I don't know, which would be sick. I hope it's that. Um, I don't know, but that's what it says. He comes back and he destroys them. I've been to the valley where that supposedly happens, the Battle
Yeah,
of Armageddon, the
yeah.
Valley of Megiddo. It
Megiddo,
is
yeah.
interesting, and
Megiddo.
it says there in the book of Revelation, the blood will run bridle high on a horse.
That's a lot.
Uh, that's a lot of
That's
blood.
four hands.
That's a that's a
That's a
lot of
lot of
blood.
blood. Yeah. There's a lot of
So
blood.
yeah, it's my point is, be careful what you wish for. You
Yeah,
just
yeah,
might
yeah,
get it.
yeah. Well, I
Be
mean,
careful
and
what you wish for.
and the thing with these Zionists, um, or the Ashkenazi elders, they have been manufacturing these prophecies for a long time. Now, for me,
Yeah,
I don't understand how making a prophecy happens legitimizes the prophecy. My brain doesn't get that, but theirs seemingly does.
yeah, that
Uh,
wouldn't work.
but I would
That
my
doesn't
my
seem like it would
point
work.
being is I wouldn't discount because I don't know that Trump gives a shit about it, right? And the average
I don't
American
think
give a
so.
shit about it, but uh, they do. And I don't think that Gaza thing is offhand at all. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't some orchestration going on to delay and continue that war until old Trumpy boy came in.
Could be
Yeah.
very possible, especially with his relationship to Israel.
Yep.
Trump is beloved in Israel.
He is, as he
Beloved.
should be.
They they
He.
literally put him on coins over
Yeah.
there. That's how much they love him.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's very possible. Netanyahu is a very, very evil man. It just period. There's not even really debatable. He's not a good person, but he's a very effective leader.
So
And yeah, go ahead.
let me ask you the question then.
Yes.
Therefore, in this complete TFT theory, YouTube, who is the man who stands upon the rock of the dome?
I don't know. I
Is
don't
it
think we know
Trump
yet.
or is it
I
Kushner?
doubt it. I doubt it's Trump. He's pretty old. Uh, but maybe. I mean, it's
He
possible it's
did
Trump.
get shot in the head with a wound that he
Mm,
survived.
he did. He did. I seen it. I
Yep,
watched it happen live.
yep. And you know
Um,
what? A good sniper could have made that shot.
oh, anybody could have made that shot. That was a
No, I
nothing
mean a
shot.
good shot to cause damage, but not to harm, actually hurt him.
It'd be pretty risky though. Pretty risky because he
Well,
turned his head at the
the dude.
exact right moment. The exact right moment. Uh, but
No,
no, I
I
don't know.
understand. It's TFT here.
I don't know. I have no idea. Scripture says we won't know until we do. Basically, he's just going to show up. I believe it calls him something Barak because Barak means lightning from the east.
Right.
Uh, and that's what he's called. Which funny because somebody just said Barack Obama. Uh, that's what he's mentioned as. And basically, he just kind of shows up, and the world falls in love with him. So I don't know. I don't know if it's Kushner because he's not a very charismatic guy. He's very, very smart, but he's pretty much happy being in the background type guy,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm just saying that the prophecy rumor mill is in full effect, dude.
yep.
So many Jews. Just go check YouTube. How many Jews and Christians are on this, dude? They're really serious about it. There's a lot of conspiracy theory around Kushner and Gaza right now, an incredible amount. Now I know it makes
Hmm.
good click bait for them. I get
Right.
it, but it is interesting because, like I said, the Zionists they do that kind of shit, man. They do. I mean,
They do.
I'm not sitting at YouTube.
They're schemers. They
We're just
scheme.
TFT in here, YouTube.
No, I don't know. It's very interesting. We won't know until it happens, and the reality of it is, Chester, there's not much we could do to stop it.
Yeah, it doesn't really mean anything to America, does it? Right?
Yep.
So it's kind of an irrelevant little offshoot there, but I just thought it was really interesting how that Gaza thing just kind of floated, and then all of a sudden it's a thing. Because you realize how many people are like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Because it's the only idea. There's nobody else putting anything else forward. Nothing.
No,
Not a
that's the
thing.
problem. Nobody has solutions. Nobody's even offering them. And then Trump comes in with one. He's like, "Well, what if we manage it?"
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Well,
And
wait a
if you
minute." And he's like, "Well,
think
what do you want to do?
and
What
if
do you
you
want to do,
think
guys?"
old Trumpy can't get Jordan to take another 2 million and throw in their freaking prison camps,
Watch him.
watch him.
No, he'll do it.
Right. I mean, because
Jordan. I think Jordan and Egypt both already offered to. In fact, if I remember
I'm sure
correctly.
they did, because he seems
Yep.
very confident about it. He's talking as if, yeah, that's not the actual problem, right?
Right.
Because like I said before, when they all left, what they call it, a pogrom? Is that the word?
Grom.
Is because they all left. They told all the other Arab nations around, said we're going to murder all the Jews, get out. So the Palestinians left. That's why they wear that stupid little key on their lapel or whatever. Um,
Yes.
they didn't, and they lost. They didn't take those Palestinians into their homes. They didn't embrace them. They were in little
No.
tent camps that they put freaking walls around them, fences around them, right? And they're still there. There's
Right.
still, go check the map on Jordan. There are multiple Palestinian camps. They have not embraced them. They do not care for them. They do not let them in their society. They live like frickin' rats, animals. This is how their
Yep.
brothers treat them, right?
Yes.
So you could say, well, humanitarianly, we shouldn't send the Gazans then. And I'm like, fuck the Palestinians.
Jesus, Chester. I don't know if I'd go that far. They're still human beings, but I would much rather they be somewhere
Hey, you
where they're
know
not going to
what?
be,
You make your bed,
murdered.
lay in it.
I would much rather they're going to be somewhere they're not going to be murdered. And it
Well, they're
seems
not going
like
to be
that's
murdered.
pretty
They're
much
just going to be treated like shit. But
that's
what's
pretty
new?
much the only alternative here is for them to just move, basically, because obviously the Israelis are not going to tolerate their presence anymore, right? Let's just
Oh no,
call it what it
that's
is.
not
They're not.
happening. That's done.
Yeah.
That is 100%
So
done.
they're going to have to be moved, whether they want to be or not. And I get it. That's kind of unfair to some of them. They were born and raised there. That's their land. But the alternative is you have an occupying force that's far stronger than you, far more advanced than you, who doesn't care if they kill you. Do you want to die for this?
Yeah, but
Do you?
here's the thing. Here's the thing that people keep talking about two-state solution. We already gave them the two-state solution. They were
It's
given their
true.
own state. It's called Gaza. 20 years ago to run. What did they do with it? Hmm?
Yeah. They elected terrorists, unfortunately. Um,
And they still support them. Still, their entire life is in literal rubble, and they still support those people because that's what they are. They're taught from
yeah.
birth to kill a Jew. From birth, kill a Jew. Now,
Yes.
you can say, oh, they're victims, and you go ahead and bleeding heart all you want all over it. I don't care. They need to be put somewhere where they can cause no harm. That's it. Done.
I unfortunately have to agree with you because the alternative is getting basically just wiped out.
Yeah, just it's
Uh,
a cycle continue over and over and over and over and
over and
over.
over,
It's
endless
enough.
cycle of violence and death. And I agree. Somebody has to put a stop to it,
Are you
one way or
telling
the
me I'm
other.
being too spicy for you?
Yeah,
Shit.
yeah. This issue, for some reason, really gets you. You get real defensive over this particular one, or defensive is the wrong word. Real aggressive over these Palestinians. You don't like them much. You're not a fan of the Palestinian people,
Because
I
I
see.
know the history.
I know you do.
They're freaking animals, dude.
Well,
It's
I mean,
the
we're all
I don't
animals,
care.
technically.
It's the reality of the situation. Why do you think none of the other Muslims who are very happy to kill a Jew, by the way, right?
They are. That's
Why do
true.
you
Yeah.
think none of those other Muslims want anything to do with those fuckers?
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason, you know,
Yeah.
because
And well,
they're a
also, I
freaking
think
mind
because
cancer.
I think it's also because
Oh, we're definitely this
you
show is
know
definitely canceled today.
you're probably getting us kicked off today. Yeah. Uh, it's also because of I really don't want America involved in it because we already
Oh
have
no,
enough
I
people
didn't say
whining.
we're not going to be involved with it.
No, no, listen to me, listen to me. We already have enough people in this country right now who whine about the way my ancestors, the Indians, were treated, and it's very similar. It's a very similar situation here, uh, and
Yeah, but
I
the
would rather
Indians
us
aren't
take
sitting
our hands off of it.
freaking vest bombing people
That's true. They're basically just getting drunk and
and
running
making
casinos.
money at casinos.
Yeah, making tons of money in casinos. Good on them. Good on my
Yeah, good
people. I'm
on
happy
them,
for
dude.
them.
Yeah.
But my point is, the situation's very, very similar. I would much rather America keep their hands clean in it. But unfortunately, because the world is full of a bunch of petulant children who just can't simply get along, we might not have a choice.
Yeah.
And I would just rather I really want us to stop being the world police. But this particular area is so volatile that it's just really hard for us to stay away from it because, well, one, Israel's a nuclear state. That's not good. And two, uh, probably some of the other ones around them are nuclear states, at least to some level. They're just not being fully upfront with it. We don't need people getting nuked. Nobody wants that. Nobody should ever want that. You live in Japan. They definitely don't want to watch that happen again. It's not anything anybody should be rooting for. So the best solution, which sucks for these people, is to be moved. It just sucks. I get it. It might not be fair, but it's either that or
Well, the
hellfire,
the
constant hellfire.
how I'll offer an olive branch if you'd like.
Okay.
If we move them and put them away from the Jews,
Yeah.
maybe they'll stop teaching their children every damn day to kill a Jew. Maybe.
Maybe.
And if they
Maybe.
stop it and they start saying, "Hey, we're Muslims, let's live happy Muslim lives," they could have a future. It's possible,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But this ain't gonna happen for them until you get them away from the Jews. Because see, keep in mind, Israel is full, and Judah as well. They call it the West Bank. Fuck them. It's Judah.
Yes.
It's Judea, right? Um, is full of Arabs
It is.
who
It
are
is. I've been
Israeli
there.
citizens who
I've
fight
seen them.
side by side with them in their army, who
That's
police
it.
Jerusalem every single solitary day.
I've met them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I bought
it
what was
isn't.
supposed to be turkey from them, but it was definitely not turkey that I was
Well, you got
eating.
to be
But
careful
I
about
bought
that.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, the Palestinians are uniquely a problem, as is
Yeah.
the mullahs and leaders of Iran, not the people of Iran, but the leadership. The of course Hezbollah. which is not even representative of the Lebanese people. Keep in mind, Lebanon was a Christian country until the
A beautiful one.
Palestinians escaping from Iraq went in there.
A
Once again,
beautiful
they are
Christian
Palestinians.
country,
Yeah, it
by the
was.
way. Beautiful.
Now, and it's nice because they actually got themselves a leader here recently, and he's a Christian. Interesting.
Interesting. Interesting.
Syria was
Yeah.
also a hotbed of Christian
Syria.
activity.
Syria is one of the greatest tragedies to befall mankind in a very long
Oh,
time.
it's
Is the fall of
horrible.
Syria.
Yeah, what's
It's
it's going to
horrible.
become another problem area. But I'm just saying that these Palestinians have been completely corrupted by themselves. They've
Yep.
completely corrupted themselves to the point that they're intolerable to other humans, even those of the same faith. And
Yes.
they've done it to themselves. They really have. You could say there's an innocent thing here or there, mate, whatever. Have fun at your frickin' little party. But
But
they,
Chester, I will still say that the children, which there are many, are innocent and they don't deserve
dude,
to die because
dude,
they've been indoctrinated by
you
psychos.
you take a gun, put it in any of those kids' hand, and say kill the Jew, they'll do it
Well,
instantly. What are you
how
talking
about we
about?
don't give them? How about we don't give them guns
But I'm
then?
just saying
How
that's the
about we just
situation, and we can't fix it until we get them away from the Jews.
I agree. I do agree with that. I think that the best solution is separation. They just need it's the same solution we came up with the American Indians. We gave them their land over here, and we just let them be separate. And
Yeah,
for the most part, and not a lot of them chose not to, and they integrated back into America, which was also good.
yeah,
But a big number of them, obviously my ancestors, a big number of them did not. They accepted it, and they moved out there and did their thing,
sure,
or moved wherever and did their thing. But for the most part, tensions between us and them are completely there isn't any, right? Like it's definitely not like that. They're not like you
right.
said, they're not strapping
Well,
bombs to their chest or training their kids to kill Americans. Uh, it's just it's a shitty situation because the only alternatives are worse, right? The best
right, but
alternative is to get them out of there.
it's a completely different I understand the analogy, but it's a completely different situation. The reason what happened to the Indians was mainly because of the French and the Pawnee. That's it.
Yeah,
The French are the ones that created all those wars, the French Indian Wars. We literally has the name in the war. They're the
fucking
ones that
French
created all
every
that
time with the
tension and all
French.
that pushback that had to happen. And you got all these Indians with the French arms, and even after the war, going over history, the French kept bringing down because the French are not your friends, by the way. All
No,
right.
correct. Yes, yes.
They were funneling guns and weapons the whole damn time after the fact, right? Many of it coming through the Quebecois, right?
Yeah.
And that's what got them all uppity, and they kept causing
Yes,
that trouble, and they finally had to say, because keep in mind the settlers and the Indians in their area got along great. There was no
they did.
problem,
They did. Yep.
right? It
Most of
was
the problems came from external forces. One,
right,
arming them up, and then two,
liquor.
they had yes, liquor. They had enemies. So the
Yep,
French obviously didn't like the British very much and didn't like the colonies and things. So they
their eternal war.
instigated, and yeah, which for the love of God, they instigated as much as they could by using them basically as mercenaries to do their bidding, and it worked. But the problem is it became such an issue for young America that as America decided it wanted to go westward, they had to deal with it. They had to
Right.
deal with they were
Uh,
they were effectively radicalized. A lot of these
and
tribes were,
they were
and
by the
that's what they had
French,
to
and
do.
of course they had to bring.
Yes,
That's when the military stuff started happening, and then when
yes,
we had our Manifest Destiny thing, and we
yes,
started going into the West, we ran into the enemy of all the other Indians, the Pawnee,
yeah,
and of course, to a lesser point, the what was there, the Comanche, which Comanche aren't even a tribe; they're just literally the kicked out Indians that were bad, like the damn ones that have illegally come into America. That's what they were,
yes,
right? The
yes.
criminals that no one else wanted to deal with, and they became a problem for everybody.
The cartels, basically, is
Yeah,
what you're saying to me.
they were.
Yeah, of the day. Yeah,
And that's where the conquering went on, and of course you got freaking corrupt politicians that want more money, more power, more
no,
land. It riled up the Westerners because especially that I can't remember the name of it, that one fort that had a lot of families in it that got taken over by the Comanche, and they murdered and raped all. And
Oh,
that one girl survived, and she wrote a book when they were able to rescue her like 20 years later or something like that. But that right
yeah,
there sat in the craw of the East, the Americans in the East, hardcore. And
yep.
therefore, it was very easy for the government to say, "Well, we need to deal with these Indians." Yes, you do. And out they
Go
went.
deal with them, and they dealt
That's
with them.
what
Oh boy,
happened.
did they!
That's what happened.
I would love a proper, fair telling of that story in a long form like TV series or movies.
Yeah.
Because we don't even most people today don't even fathom how big those fights were out there. They
Oh
were
yeah.
massive
Yeah.
armies against each other to conquer the West because the Indians were very numerous and they were very warrior culture. So they were fighting and they just had
They
just
were.
massive numbers of people.
Yeah.
And the cavalry and the army and what have you had to go handle that business and they handled it.
Right.
But
Well, and we
it
don't
would just
talk
be
about the
it'd be very
Pawnee
great.
much, and they were a real big problem.
No. No. Well, most people think of the Comanche or the Iroquois or these tribes, the Apaches.
Yeah, but that
But
was
no,
a
yeah, you're
that's
correct.
French. That was French shit.
Yeah, that was a lot of that was well, what was it? The Apache? Yeah, the Apache I think were out further. They were further past
Yeah,
where this
yeah, and
happened
the
because a lot of this
Apaches
was in the
weren't
Midwest.
even Americans. They were like
No,
Mexicans,
yeah, yeah, they came up.
and they were
Yeah,
just
um,
raiders.
yeah, they weren't as big of a deal. But my point is the reason why that happens, I think, is because the reason why that they're not talked about as much is because they weren't mythologized. They were just
And
decimated.
that's true. That is
They
true.
were or destroyed. Well, I know how much that word triggers you. They were just destroyed.
Yeah, no, that's
They
true.
were just destroyed.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, if we just look at the simple Lewis and Clark thing, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people say, "Well, we're not really sure about the validity of that." Fair enough. But if you look at just the story of it, when they're
Right.
traveling across, where did they run into troubles? Well, nowhere. They
True.
just went out. They
True.
were just little party moving, interacting, happy interaction with smiley Indians. It
Yeah.
wasn't these brutal, murderous people. There were some very select people who were a problem, and they were a problem for the Indians as well. Just like these Hispanic
Absolutely.
criminals that are coming into America, the biggest
Yes.
threat they are is to the actual American Hispanics. It's the
One of
same
the
thing.
things that's been lost is how many of the tribes, the more peaceful tribes like the Cherokee, were basically asking, in some cases quite literally, for help from these other tribes because
Well,
they
they
were so
were,
brutal.
but that
Yeah.
that was the political fervor, and a bunch of greedy men in Washington is what did
Yep.
them in. That was complete
Yes.
corrupt bullshit. What
Yeah.
happened to the Cherokee? Yeah.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm fully aware. Um, yeah, no, I agree with you. But my point is, some of these other tribes that were much less warlike were very against what was happening too. Obviously, they didn't want to be. They were being attacked by these same people, like you were saying. They
They
were
were.
being victimized just like anybody else because these were. I mean, there's this weird notion, thanks to Hollywood largely, that these were a block. These were all one group. They had different tribes, sure, but they all had one mind. Basically, they
No,
all had the same
that's
thing,
not
and
even.
that couldn't be further from the truth. These were very, very different groups of people, very
Very
different
different.
nations, because that's what they were. Had very different ways of handling business. Cherokee were very much businesslike.
Well, they had their
The
own written language.
yes,
I
the
mean, they
others
were
were very much
very sophisticated.
warlike. Some were very agricultural. Some were. I mean, there was just very different uh, cultures in this superculture of the American Indian, as they like to be called, and as most of the tribes still like to be called today. Um, this idea that they were one monolith comes from the a certain sect of people in America, especially, typically of the left lean, that want to demonize the American conquest of the West as if it was uniquely evil, and it wasn't evil at all. There was some evil things that happened, but it was just conquest. Every country's done it. There's no country that exists today that is innocent of it, and there never will be. It's just the way things happen. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, war is inevitable.
Hmm.
And as Fallout has taught us, Chester, war never changes.
True.
Unfortunately, in war, innocent people suffer more than anything else. And that's just what happened. They had land that the people over here wanted. And the reality is, and I'm one of these people, reality is they lost, and the people who took it used it a lot better than they were using it.
Yeah.
The most powerful nation to ever exist exists largely because we conquered the West.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, don't go look up the Cherokee language because you'll be confused. You'll be like, "What is that Russian?" Anyway, um,
It's pretty crazy. It's
yeah,
it's it's so what's the word I'm I guess obscure even today that the nation has had to implement all sorts of things to try and keep it because it's being lost to English basically like every other languages.
right,
Um, and so they've been implementing measures to try and make sure that it's taught and
right.
the
But I mean,
youngins know it.
I was being sarcastic.
I know.
But if you go look at the native languages, which I've spent a lot, I've dabbled, and you look at these languages, the names, the words they use, it's there. These not only in North America but South America as well. It's absolutely riddled with Old German, riddled.
Yes.
So how did that happen,
I
right?
don't know.
And of course, how old is Old German, the Aryan language? How old is it? It might be a lot older than we think.
Uh-oh.
Matter of fact, the ancient German might well be the remnant of this insane constant search for Atlantis.
Listen to this guy.
Yeah,
Listen,
what
Chester,
a what a
do we need
nerd.
to get you a red armband? Is that what we're doing here? What's going on, bud?
What's the red armband for? At least it isn't the yellow
That,
one,
that was very Hitlerian, sir. Very Hitlerian of you.
was it?
No, I'm just teasing. Uh, but no, it's interesting to watch how much that's the case because if you do study language like you do, it's very interesting to watch how often these sounds mean the same thing. They might have a
Yeah,
different tone,
yeah.
inflection, whatever, but it's the same sound really. If you put
Well,
it in a machine and change the pitch a little bit, it would sound the same.
the
Uh,
really interesting one that everyone can research very easily is mama. Right?
yes,
Now you could say, well, it's kinetically phonetic, meaning it's something that the mouth will naturally sound. Fair enough. But we have other ones like baba, right? Now that is
right.
not as natural for a young child to say as mama, right? But yet that word used for old lady or grandmother is quite widespread across Eurasia, right? But
Yeah.
there are this is why linguists and particularly philologists are adamant that human language can be boiled down to one original source, and it's quite interesting that these scientific people are agreeing with the religiosity of others.
Interesting how often that happens, huh?
Yeah,
Curious.
yeah.
Curious
But I
that.
don't know. It might well be. I think it's going to be impossible to figure that out because you do have the natural sound that a baby would make. That's part of it. But you also
Mhm.
have the insane amount of trade humans have done for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Since
I mean,
always, yeah.
and you got many thousands of those years in the modern era, where you got these reindeer hunters going back across, the Aryans going back across Europe, and of course they're picking stuff up, they're trading, they're speaking, they're exchanging cuisine and all kind of stuff. So it's kind of hard to nail that down because it could just be, you know, a crude knowledge, right?
Right. Yeah. Could be. Could
And
be.
keep in mind,
It's
people don't understand, but one of humans' earliest inventions was sailing. I know, right? You would think that would be a later
right.
one, but no. It's one of the oldest ones we know about. Humans have been sailing around for tens of thousands of years, dude.
And here's the funny thing. Why? Why? Just 'cause, largely, right?
Yeah,
Just to see what's
because
out
we're
there.
human.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
curious.
while you were gone, Chester, I went on a nice little tangent about one of the coolest things that has the potential to happen now is to see a human being on the planet of Mars.
Oh yeah,
That would
yeah.
be a massive it would be the greatest achievement in the history of mankind, and we could see that in our lifetime.
We
It's
could,
real. It
and
really
you're
could happen.
assuming that we haven't already done it in the '60s, but I get you.
Well,
I'm with you.
listen,
I'm with you.
let's put the hat down for a
I
minute.
put okay,
But
hands down.
where I'm going is that same energy that made us be sailors before anything else,
Yeah, yeah.
or not before anything else, before a lot of other things, is the same energy that we need to get to Mars.
Hmm.
We lost that over the last
Oh no,
50
it'd be
years or
super cool.
so.
It'd be super cool.
We
Yeah.
need to get that back, that idea of what the hell's out there.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be out there necessarily,
Well,
just
we
anywhere.
haven't
Go
had that
explore.
spirit in a long time.
A long time.
And Trump might well be the one to bring it back because the zeitgeist has shifted. It
Yeah,
has, and old Trumpy likes those kind of things. So I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. I know Elon
we
is
need it.
about to launch 2 missions to the moon.
Yes.
So and of course they need to build a base on the moon to do the Mars thing. So I guess he's
Seems
getting
like
at it.
yes. Do it.
Yeah.
Moon base? I want a moon base. Chester, we might live in an age where there's a moon base. Bro, that's a huge deal for any nerd that's been
Yeah.
alive for the last 125 years,
Oh
really,
sure.
when
Oh
Jules
sure.
Verne was talking about it.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things we could do. That right there would be the biggest accomplishment in human history if we get
It'd
an
be really
actual
cool.
functioning
Yeah.
moon base,
Yeah.
and then we go to Mars all within like a
Well,
decade.
and
Bro,
we have the 3D printing thing going full bore.
bro,
We have these his Tesla bots. So
we
I'm
just
sure
gotta
they're
survive for
yeah.
like another 5 years, and things are gonna get so much better, so much quickly that it's gonna make our head spin.
Yeah.
And
It could be
we
really
just got to
awesome.
get through it.
Yeah.
Oh, so much
And we
potential.
can
It
have
feels so good.
the autistic dork jumping
And
up and down more.
Chester, we might even somehow get a good Superman movie. I know it's unlikely,
I don't believe it.
but it might happen. There's a
No, that's too far fetched. Mars, fine, but
Mars I can believe, but never. We won't
no,
have a good Superman movie. There's no
no,
way.
there's no way. But anyway, we do live in
Uh,
interesting times, and that's of course a great thing,
it
and
is.
a blessing from Confucius. But or was it Solomon, or who said that? I think it was Confucius, right?
Probably. It sounds
May
Confucian.
you live in interesting times, right?
Yep.
But yeah, um, it is also interesting to me how quickly the Democrats became completely cowed and ineffective. It's quick. It's interesting how quickly that happened, because the people that are yelling at the Democrats most right now are other Democrats
Yes.
that have
Which is good.
woken up, and they should, and woken up,
Yeah.
and they're mad that they were
How
lied to.
nice would it be, Chester, if we had two political parties that believe in America?
Wouldn't that be
That'd be
great?
great, huh?
Wouldn't that
That'd
be
be
great?
nice.
That'd be
Even if we
awesome.
disagree on what that means, it'd be real nice if I could watch Democrat leaders and be like, you know what? I might disagree with them, but I don't think they hate me.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
it's
have that now.
no, and it's interesting because if we go back to the inception, the founding
Yeah.
of our country, and we look at some of the arguments just between, say, Jefferson and Adams, they had many, right?
Mm.
But in those arguments, they very much disagreed on how the land should be governed, right? But nowhere in there was there anything about how can we take advantage of these suckers.
Right.
Not once. They both of them loved the country. They wanted to make it a thing. They wanted to thrive and survive and excel. They both wanted it. They just had different opinions on how to do it. So their
Which is how it's
arguments
supposed to
were
be.
benefiting us no matter the outcome, you know?
Right. Which is
Um,
how it's supposed to be. It's
yeah,
not supposed to be a battle of enemies over who gets to loot the treasury. It's supposed to be a a a debate, a competition
see how quick
of
they blocked that?
rivals of rivals that allow you to have a nice conversation because that's really what we want. We would much rather have a conversation. What's wrong?
Nothing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my wife was banging
Oh,
something.
that's
We'd
okay.
much rather have a conversation in here in this country about what's right and what's wrong. Like for instance, I've come around on, but when we first started this stream, I was very much against, and I still am in America for corruption reasons, very much against the idea of universal health care.
Yeah.
But then I started looking into it more. I look into like where you live. I look into other places that actually does it efficiently.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no good reason America can't do this, except the United States government is horrendously
Right.
corrupt
Well,
at a level that
it's not like it's completely free.
no, but it's still a lot better than here, bro.
Oh
Like
yeah. Yeah.
if you get cancer and you're in the middle class, you're not in the middle class anymore. You're instantly poor. You're done.
Yeah. No,
Unless you just say screw it
yeah.
and die. basically.
I mean, the
Um,
Japanese medical system is pretty solid. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, pretty good, pretty strong,
Yeah.
which is good. But my point is, if they were able to have conversations again with the other side without calling everybody at some kind of name, uh,
Well, that's all they
it'd be a
got.
lot better.
That's all they
That's all
got.
they got left because they know that their arguments are not arguments. They're
Yeah.
completely
Now,
vacuous. They have nothing to them.
that's true. Of course, we can see that very clearly. But there is an interesting part of this conversation that we haven't covered at all, and that is the SCOTUS, right?
Mm.
Because of course, they instantly blocked the Treasury because there's juicy, juicy meat in there, right?
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and of course, they got on that real quick. And of course, this is all going to have to be pushed all the way up to Supreme Court. They're about to get busy. It's going to be a busy year for these old Supreme
Busy
Court.
for the old
But
SCOTUS.
it'll be interesting for me to see how that goes. Are these people true constitutionalists, or are they just as bought as everybody else?
We're
Because
gonna
there's
find out.
no reason whatsoever for them to have blocked the Treasury thing. Because what they basically did was block the Treasury Department itself from looking
Yes.
at the Treasury Department.
Yes.
They
Which
didn't
doesn't even
block
make
Elon
sense.
Musk because that's not what's happening.
He's an
Elon's go,
advisor. That's it.
he is. He's going in with his team with people in the department who are doing it,
Yes.
right?
That's right.
So they basically blocked the Treasury Department from looking at the Treasury Department. And there's no reason at all that the Supreme Court should not overturn that instantly in a 10-minute conversation, right? Let's see what
Yes.
happens though.
I think they will. Um, and here's why. One, obviously, most of these people were appointed by Trump, or at least a huge number of them.
Hmm.
Two, I think that we're seeing, like we've been talking about, a realignment. You were talking about New Zealand elected a sole conservative, quote, about as
We'll
conservative
see.
as they can
We'll
get,
see. Yeah.
government. There's a political realignment happening all over the world, and it's
There is.
because the establishment all over the world, which apparently was funded by the American government the whole time,
Yeah.
uh, is completely and utterly devoid of any kind of accountability. And they refuse, not only are they devoid of it, they reject it belligerently. They refuse to be held accountable. Well, the government is ours at the end of the day. It's the people's, right? In every country that is allegedly democratic or in republican in nature, at the end of the day, the people are supposed to have the power, right? That's the idea. So one of the two things are going to have to give here. Either they're going to have to go full totalitarian to stamp out the people, which that's what the UK apparently is trying to do,
Yeah.
or they're going to have to just
And the
break,
Germans and the
bend or
Belgians
break.
and the Swiss.
Yes. Yes, they're trying. The Romanians, they're trying it. They're trying it. The problem is, I don't think it's going to work. I think the cat is out of the bag now.
Yep.
I think the right wing, for good or for bad, has the young men, and as much as we like to demonize young men, and a lot of that is tough love coming from older men, the young men are the ones who are going to decide the next 25 years.
Hmm.
They just are. And they have decided they've had enough. They've had enough of this crap. They've had enough of this wanton spending on things that benefit them not, gives them no benefit, or their country, or their
Well,
people, or their women, gives nobody benefit.
right.
And I think we're coming about now, and we're starting to see it. Like, you got a guy like a JD Vance. He's my age. We agree on many things. Like I said, we grew up very similarly. He's seen what NAFTA and big government has done. He lived it.
Yeah,
Has
sure.
done to the heartland of this country. It destroyed it. Destroyed it. There's a reason his mother got hooked on drugs. There's a reason he probably knows a dozen people who have a similar story where
Oh, yeah.
everybody around them got hooked on
That's
drugs and
true.
whatnot.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because he's a true believer. Yeah, because he lived it.
yes.
Yeah.
He lived it. He lived it
Mm.
just like I lived it. So I understand exactly what his what's the word I'm looking for? His scruples are when it comes to these things. There's a reason why
I'm sure there's
he's
anger
the
there
one.
too.
Oh, oh boy. There's a reason why um he does things like go to East Palestine and test the water and take video of it to show you that in East Palestine, Ohio, the water is still polluted. There's a reason why he talks very, very normally and down to earth. But there's also a reason why he supports the end of cancel culture. There's a reason for all these things, and why he was the one, I think, who swung truly swung Elon to being like, okay, we'll bring the guy back, even though Elon did his little vote thing, because JD made the best argument, and the best argument is we have to have grace.
Yeah,
We cannot be a
that was a great
civilization with
tweet
no
from him. That was a really
with
good one.
no grace in it at all. And then somebody, of course, tried to play the race card on him because
Yeah,
his kids are half Indian,
right.
and he
And
just told them to grow up,
yeah,
which is the
he's
exact right answer. Just grow
yeah,
up.
just grow
It's
up.
words, man.
But
It's
here,
words.
here's another question though in regards to that. What do we do with the millennials? Because that's a burn generation right there, boy.
Well, JD and I are both millennials.
But you know what I
I
mean.
think what
You know what I mean.
I do know, but I think what you're going to see is you're going to see the ones who have intellectual capacity. They're the ones who are going to end up running this thing. I think one of the great
Sure,
examples of
but
that.
you're going to see a huge chunk of them become just a friggin', welfare, burden upon the American people as each decade goes by.
Well, we have some issues coming down the pike with that regardless, because we have automation coming. We have better power facilitation, whether it's storage or generation coming. And I think there's going to be, we do need to have the conversation of what do we do with all these people when their
Right.
jobs are
Well,
redundant because
yeah,
robots do them better.
because it's an
Um,
incredibly burned out, cucked out
yeah,
generation. And of
yes,
course, you have some of the tail of the Gen X and Gen Z is getting caught up in it too. But mainly, it's the millennials that have been absolutely burned by the actions of the Democratic Party. Absolutely burned. And you're going to have huge numbers of them single into their 60s,
yep,
right? Now, I think the men and women both. I have a feeling that you'll see it'll be less women because of these countries that are open up the euthanasia. I think you're going to see a whole lot of an incredible spike in 50, 60 something year old ladies just ending it. Huge
yes,
spike, which is
yeah, which is
sad, but it
tragic.
also relieves the problem we're talking about.
It does.
And maybe we'll see the same thing with the men. I don't know.
I do
Traditionally,
think we're seeing currently a revival, spiritualist revival, largely, hopefully largely Christian, but other religions too. And that'll alleviate a lot of it too. Because one of the things that religion is very good at is it's a balm, right? It soothes the aching heart in a way that
oh sure.
nothing does.
So, but
Nothing at
yeah,
all
so what
does.
do? We get a religious revival, which America needs clearly, because it's better when
Yes.
it's more religious than not. It's just very clear. I don't care what you believe. A Protestant Christianity makes the world better. It just is. It doesn't
It
matter if
does.
you believe in God or not. It's irrelevant. That with all the
Yeah.
data is in, right?
All of it.
But so what you're saying then is with this healing balm,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
we'll just have to burden the millennials with the whores that are standing next to them.
Well, sadly, I mean, yeah,
Oh shit!
that is going to be our burden, I guess. We're going to have to find a way to have the. Apparently, this is going to be the word of the day: grace.
Yeah.
And we just don't have a
So
choice. We can't
you just
stop
want
the
me to
march
give
of
grace to the Palestinian? I know. I see what you're doing.
we can't stop the march of progress when it comes to technology. Hopefully, it never stops because that would be terrible. Um, when it comes to automation, when it comes to all these things that are coming, these robots are going to be a very real reality within 5 years in people's homes,
Sure,
doing chores,
but it
doing
depends on how we
tasks.
use them, right?
Yes. But my point is, that's just the start. The general labor that everybody's going to want them for is, clean your house, fold your laundry, do your laundry, make your dinner. The stuff that nobody really wants to do, but
Right.
you kind of don't have a choice.
Right.
Uh, and it's a lot of labor. It takes a lot of time. And that's what they're going to do at first. But they're going to continue to get more and more and more sophisticated. Eventually, they're going to be able to do full construction. They're going to be able to do all this stuff,
Oh
all of
yeah.
it. There's no
Well,
reason they won't be
the
able to.
moon-based stuff will be built by automation. Yeah.
Almost exclusively by drones, yeah, robots. So my point is, these things are coming. They're not going to stop just because
No.
somebody wishes them to. They're not going to stop just because governments try to get in the way. It's simply not going to happen. We're going to have an
Well.
answer for a whole lot of people with basically nothing to do. And one
Well.
of the best answers I can give you is the things the robots can't do is be spiritual. They simply cannot focus. They're
Well,
just
I hope
they're
not.
machines.
That would be
Yeah,
bad.
we hope not anyway.
Um,
Uh, and what they can become is people who serve people.
right. But
Serve people.
I can give you an example because Japan is
Yep.
highly automated already, right, in its
Mhm.
factories. And so, what does automation do to a population? Well, Japan has a big problem with not making enough babies. It's the biggest problem they have, right?
Yes.
And of course, with automation becoming more and more, we're going to see more and more of it here in Japan. And the initial thinking in your head, from what you've been saying, is that, oh, this is going to cause a lot of troubles. Well, actually, what it's done here in Japan is this:
Mhm.
you don't have a lot of people in the kind of low end labor type jobs, those are being
Right.
automated. But what it has done is created a population who is specialized. They're very specialized to a point that I think it's a flaw, right? But
Yep.
nevertheless, they are incredibly specialized. And of course, when you specialize, what does that mean? You get more money. And this is why Japan is a middle class country. There are no poor people here,
Right.
right? Not really. I mean, not to speak of. There just aren't. And it's because of the automation, and it's going to increase. So, in truth, even though the Japanese are panicking, and they should, and they put all the commercials show families in them. They're trying to use propaganda in a positive way to
Right.
get more babies. In reality, automating of Japan won't hurt Japan at all.
No, it won't. Japan is probably the only country that has poised itself, positioned itself for this.
Yeah,
Whether they did it intentionally or not, they
right.
did. And they'll be the one that'll most likely be fine. It's America that's going to be really hurt if we don't have a solution.
Yeah,
Because we're going to lose a whole lot of workers are just
yeah,
going to straight lose. You're just done. You're
yeah.
not needed anymore. And then what do we do with these people? There's
Right.
going to have to be an answer. And I think the answer is uh, one of them anyway, is if we do have a big revival spiritually, which we are having, we're literally witnessing it right now. You're going to see a return to that style of life where people
Sure. Like
focus very heavily on
homesteading.
that
That could be a solution.
homesteading, and you're
Homesteading.
also going to see if we do start getting up there to the stars,
Of
settlers,
course, well,
explorers.
there's another whole. Oh no! Now you open a gigantic window.
Yep,
But there is an aside here that's kind of cute with the Japanese because the Japanese are Japanese, right?
they
It's
are. Yeah,
weird. It's like there's this innocence that runs through the Japanese. It's kind of bizarre. But anyway, they've been sitting here waiting since Trump came in, waiting for their prime minister to get a call to go and meet with the president, and they're all kind of wrenching their hands. When's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Right? They're just sitting here waiting, and then of course, when their prime minister was over talking to Trump, they all had their fingers crossed. Don't fuck it up. Do a good job. Be nice. All this kind of stuff. And he did a pretty good
Mm.
job. He came back home and he said, "Oh, I was really nervous." And I want to thank all the staff for really helping me out. It was really, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, okay." And they all clapped their little hands. It was the cutest thing ever, dude. It was so
yep,
cute. The Japanese, they're looking at it. For them, it was like like the parent who has the kid that they've been practicing with months to go do the frickin' baton spinning, right? And okay, we're standing on stage. You go, gambate, good luck, and off they go, right? It was like that, right? And it's like, yeah, you guys, your leaders suck. But the Japanese are cute. It was cute how eager, and they were like, okay, okay, oh, that was good. Oh, no, 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 no. It was like watching a play by play, right?
right.
It's just the cutest thing. The Japanese can be like that. So they're all relieved now. They're like, he okay, he did okay job. It was okay. So
Yep.
they were so worried about making sure they did a good
It
job
was
for
interesting
Mr.
watching
Trump.
Trump with him because a lot of people were speculating that you can almost see it on Trump's face that he misses Shinzo because they
Well,
were friends. They
they
got
were,
along
and
great.
that you could when he talks about it, you can see how much that hurt him. Yeah,
Yeah, he misses his friend, and
yeah,
that's sweet. That's actually
it
kind
is
of
sweet.
sweet.
Yeah, he does a lot of
Yeah.
sweet shit. Trump. It's interesting.
Yeah. He's a big old grandpa, this
He
guy.
is a grandpa.
No, it's I do think the automation thing, it's mostly overblown. I do believe. I think some people are making it way big of a problem, way bigger of a problem than it's going to be. Because some of it's way down the pike. We got
Right.
a
It
while
just
yet.
depends on
But
how you implement it, right?
yes,
Because here
yes.
in Japan, I know, shocking, the government and the bankers actually care about the Japanese. They don't care about you. They don't.
No,
But they
no.
actually care about the Japanese. you know,
Crazy idea.
and that
What a
it's a
notion.
so the Japanese benefit from this,
Yeah.
whereas Westerners, you can see very clearly your politicians don't care about you at all.
Yes.
And
At
I'm
all.
not saying that the Japanese politicians care about the old grandma down the street. No, they care about the integrity of the Japanese culture and its people
Yes.
in general. And that's enough. It's enough. But you don't have that. You might have pockets of that in certain places, in certain councils around America. I'm sure you do. But at the federal level, you just haven't had that for a long time. And I'm pointing at the freaking Republicans as well, right?
Yep.
But especially Democrats. They're rabid dogs that want nothing but their own money and their own designs. They do not care how many of you die. They do not care. Just look at some of the policy. California is a bellwether, right? I mean,
Right.
it literally is. Look at some of the laws they pass. We talk about some of the bigger ones that affect people, like fire prevention and stuff like that. But look at the little things. They literally passed, what was it, 6, 8 years ago, passed a law that if you have a sexually transmitted disease, fatal one, you are no longer required to tell a partner that you have it.
Which is insanity.
It's
That's
pure
just
insanity. And it also
I
shows that they
whew.
don't care about the population.
No,
Right?
not at all.
It's just a really good example of that. There's a plethora of these. That's just one example.
Mhm.
And this, therefore, what Japan does can't work for the current state of America. It might work in, say, Romania or Estonia, right? Or some country like that, Hungary, but it
Right.
won't work in America because of the just absolute state of things.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Trump's got a lot of work to do, dude.
We
Um,
do. We do. We got
and
a lot of problems here. Rome is in trouble,
It is.
basically.
And if this dude can keep up this pace for 4 years, which would be Hercules, put that man on Mount Rushmore, right?
Yeah, it would
Um,
be.
he could actually accomplish a lot of it because
Es
this pace he's on is insane, dude. It's insane. Now I
yes,
understand he's taken the.
especially if he does go after the Federal Reserve and the
Oh,
income
he
tax.
has to.
'Cause
He has to.
the 2 greatest evils in
Well,
America right now are those.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, what he needs to do is get into the Treasury, which they're working on. He's going to wait, and now it said, all right, fine, go over to the Board of Education and Pentagon. But he needs to get in the Treasury, clean that up. He already hired a guy who's what you want. He's an absolute boring ass nerd, but he's a stockbroker, money exchange guy. He's exactly who you want in that position. And it's like, well, why would you hire that? Because usually what they do is they hire, political people. Usually the people getting these and head of these departments are politically chosen, which is weird. The Democrats complaining about it because they do exactly the same thing. But Trump's not doing that. He's putting specialists in position. And the treasury guy is like a wicked level specialist when it comes to money, right?
Yeah.
He's just this boring number crunching guy. He's an accountant, right? And I am going to guess that the move he's going to have to make, and it's unfortunate, but I think he's going to have to make it. What he's going to have to do is disconnect the American government from the private company that is the Federal Reserve and put it all back on the Treasury. And I think that's just what he's going to have to do because the Federal Reserve, Trump can't really do anything to them because they're a private company. They're not. I know it's called the Federal Reserve, but that's an illusion. They are a private company. They're not under the federal auspices at all. They're a completely separate entity. And they're not cooperating, and they won't cooperate. Right. So what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to simply disengage America from that private company completely. Cut it. Just cut that relationship and put everything back under the Treasury, which hasn't been there for a century. Keep that in mind.
Yes.
Right?
No,
But
that's
is what he's
absolutely
going
the
to
correct
have to
move.
do. The
Yes.
Treasury is going to have to start printing the money again. They're going to have to start doing everything. It's been 100 years, but they're going to have to get to it because the Federal Reserve is not giving him an option, and he can't strong arm them like he can the others because He's the president. He's in charge of the executive branch. He can do that. But the Federal Reserve, he can't do anything to. So the only thing he can do is simply separate us from them and move it. And that's going to be a major shakeup, dude. That's
Yeah.
insanely huge thing we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, that's if he goes through with it and he comes after that income tax, he comes after the Federal Reserve,
Yeah.
uh, he will, love him or hate him, he will be the most important president since
Well,
Roosevelt,
ever. No,
probably
ever.
more.
No, don't even.
Yeah.
It'll be the most
Uh,
important presidency in American history.
well,
Full stop,
more
dude.
than
No, full
Washington,
stop.
you think?
Now, once
Well,
again,
okay.
Washington wasn't much of a president, dude. He went out
Well,
there. He
true.
was the face of our army. He made a couple of good decisions. Mainly, he shut up and listened to the French guy, and he didn't like it because he don't like the French. And
That's
he
true.
just kind of stood there and looked the way he was. He was a bit of a poster child. They put him in there. He got out of the way. He didn't interfere.
But
He tried once to go in, and they actually insulted him and embarrassed him when he went into the Congress. But so George, you know, I give him credit for shutting the hell up and letting it get on. But as far as a
but
great president who did great things, no, dude, no.
the great thing that he did though was exactly what you just said.
Yeah, shut up, get
He
out of the
set
way.
he set the example of what a president should do, is let Congress handle as much as you can because they're the elected body of the people, and then
Well,
step
Article
in if
One,
he
right?
needs to. Yes. So that is very important. But it's hard to disagree with you. It's hard to disagree with you because the Federal Reserve has to go. It's
It's
not
got
even
to
a
go.
question of
It's got to go.
it needs to be trimmed, it needs to be reined in. No, it
No,
needs to be
no.
destroyed.
If they were
Ripped out,
working,
root and
yeah,
stem.
yeah. If they were working in the best interest of the American people and they just had a different of opinion, that would be a different conversation. But these people
Yep.
are the enemy. They are the enemy, plain and simple. I don't know how it got to that, but that's what it is. So he's going to have to do that. And you think these Democrats are making noise now, dude? Dude, they will be apoplectic.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean,
They
but
will.
it will be and good. Maybe we'll have a few aneurysms. They are old.
They are pretty old. They are pretty old. Um, yeah, no, it's there's just so many issues, so many things uh about this current situation that I really hope this administration stays true to its mission, stays true to its original stated purpose, and that is to rein in the American federal government. I want to give you a statistic, Chester. This is insanity. If they cut 3 trillion from the budget right now, if Elon Musk and his super nerds got in there and they found all the waste and they cut it down by $3 trillion every, I think they do it every 2/3 of a year or whatever it is. That's how they do it.
Yeah.
If they did that, if they did that, we would only go back to 2019 levels of government spending. They have added in 6 years $3 trillion to the federal budget. That is insane.
It is.
There's no
No,
justification for it.
is bad.
That's
Yeah.
basically doubled, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It doubled it in 3 years. There's no justification for that. None. Zero. You can talk about COVID spending. You can talk about all this. Yeah, that was 1 year. That was maybe 2 years if you want to be real generous and
Ma,
stretch
they're a
it.
bunch of drug addicts, dude.
Yes, it has to stop. I don't
It
care
does.
who does it. I don't care what guy does it. I don't care if the man's name is Poopy McFakeface. I don't care who he
Yeah.
is. It
I'd vote for
has
Poopy.
to stop.
I
I'd
hear
vote for
he's got
Poopy too.
great foreign policy.
Great policies
Yeah.
Poopy has.
Yeah.
I'm in
Poopy.
on Poopy. We're
Yeah.
all in on Poopy over
Yeah.
here. Poopy
Yeah.
2028.
But if he had Poopy 2028. But the thing is, if Trump pulls off what he's trying, if he's successful, well, who knows? But if he is, dude, an interesting thing, if you kind of take the math and roll it in your head a little bit, that
Yep.
$34 trillion deficit, which everyone is so worried about, will be gone.
Yep. Because you know who we owe it
No,
to?
I'm not even Donald Trump. I mean, I'm not even joking. There's a potential in his presidency that he could balance. Oh my God, balance the budget.
Yes,
You know, the
that should
last
happen.
person who balanced the budget, and it's going to be weird. You guys will be surprised by this.
Oh, I know the answer, but go ahead. Tell
Bill
them. Tell the
Clinton.
people. Yes. Do you know why?
Tell him.
I know why. It was Mr. Newt Gingrich,
Yeah.
the Speaker of the House during Clinton's era, was a financial hawk. So when I was saying earlier that Democrats have done what Trump is trying to do, they've done it before. In our lifetime, we all watched it. That's what I was referring to. I was referring to Mr. Clinton, and which he had other problems as president, but when it came to this, and it came to having Newt as his speaker, they worked together very, very uh, contentiously, but they did, and they balanced that damn budget. And we were on pace to have, uh, we did, in fact, have one of the only times in American history, literally since the beginning, where we weren't increasing the debt
Right.
by the end of that. And then, of course, Bush came in and 9/11 and
Well,
da da
nine
da da
eleven
da,
and
and
all,
that was
yeah,
the
the
end of that.
nonsense, yeah. This
Yeah.
ridiculous spending and stuff like that. But I was saying that we could see that. And imagine JD Vance, for instance, getting a not only balanced budget or nearly balanced budget, but trillions of dollars coming in that could be spent on actual projects. I mean, we might well be seeing, and it's interesting that Trump has foreshadowed this in actuality. We might well be seeing the McKinley Roosevelt handover.
Yes.
Now that the
Yes.
last one was a bit violent. Hopefully, it won't happen like that.
It
But
got a little rough.
a
Yeah.
little. Well, he died, McKinley,
Yeah.
but assassinated. But we might well see that. So JD, if he gets and honestly, unless he screws, he's going to have to really
And you
screw
know
up
what?
bad. He's
You
he's
know
going to be
what?
sitting pink, baby.
JD Vance is very young, just like Roosevelt
Yep.
was. That's a very dangerous thing. He's a veteran, very, very young man, just like Roosevelt was. That's a very dangerous thing to a very old deep state establishment, financial state. Very, very old. It moves very, very slowly. Somebody like a Vance is very dangerous to them, and they know that. It's why they co-opted Occupy Wall Street because it was a youth movement. It's why they co-opted the Tea Party because while it wasn't a full youth movement, there
Sure.
was a lot of really young guns, as if you will,
Right.
in that movement.
Well, a lot of the
Um,
pushback is from those movements. Actually, we're kind of seeing the
yes,
results of it. Yeah.
yep. So a guy like a Vance, who's smooth, he's a straight talker. Anybody can listen to him and understand him. He's not gonna blow your mind. He can, but he's not going to. He's going to talk to you directly. A guy like that who has the chutzpah, if you will, to stand up to these people right to their face, go into the lion's den and just call them stupid, basically. Um, he's very, very dangerous to them,
Are you
especially if
saying
he can
he's
get.
Daniel-esque? Oh no.
He's very Daniel-esque, especially if he can get the support, the rub from Trump. That'll really be what matters in
Well,
2028.
I mean,
Is
unless he
if the
screws up,
Democrats can
man.
somehow find somebody that isn't repugnant to the
Who?
average voter.
Who?
I don't know. I don't know that person, but if they can, the only thing that'll matter is who Trump gives the rub to.
Now
That's it.
they're gonna have to breed one and rise them up because their royalty of California Newsom has shit the bed, right?
Yep.
Now
Yep.
Roger says again, Chester Thundero, I can't wait to see the look on your face when you see what really Trump is going to do. Well, all joking aside, Roger, what do you think is going to happen? Seriously.
I don't know.
I know. I'd
I
like to
don't
see
know.
what his opinion is,
I
because
would be too.
to be fair, Trump and I, Thundera and I, have well, Thundera and
Oh,
I
I wish.
have been very cautious about Trump.
Yes.
We
Yes.
haven't been on the Trump train from day one.
I've only voted for him once, and that
Right.
was mainly because the
I
last
haven't voted at all.
administration killed my father. So fuck
Right.
him.
But I'm just saying we've
Um,
been cautious of Trump since day one. I see some benefit in him, but I also thought he was far too boisterous in the wrong
yes.
way. But
Yes.
I tell you what, this is a different Trump,
He
and
does seem a lot
I
more mellow,
he does, and
calmer.
I like what he's doing. He hasn't done
Yeah.
anything yet I don't like, not yet.
The
So
only thing that scares me is the Gaza thing, but I'm gonna trust that he's anti-war. He doesn't want American boots on the ground in the Middle East. So I'm just gonna trust because that's all I can do is trust that he's still that
yeah,
guy
but if the
because he
American
was the
people
first
push
time.
back a lot on America being involved, he might well back up.
He might, which is
You
good.
know,
That's what we
which is
want. We
fine.
want a president
Um,
that'll back up.
but moving all the Palestinians out, rebuilding the place, and trying to keep as many of the radicals out as possible is a good idea. And of course,
Yes.
Netanyahu has said America, because he doesn't have to spend any money, we'll do it. We'll build it.
Yes.
And turn it over to America. And Netanyahu was 100% on board, which I was a little bit surprised of because I think we had both agreed that in that interview when Trump and Netanyahu were talking to the press, it felt like Netanyahu had no idea he was going to say something like that. It felt
It
like
was
is what you
interesting.
look at his face. But
He didn't
Netanyahu's
look happy
100% on
almost.
board. Well,
Like he
now he
and
is.
what I mean by
He's
yes, but what I mean by that is he didn't
promoting
look
it.
like you said that he was aware it was coming,
Right.
or
Is
at
what it
least
looked
not to
like.
the level that Trump was saying. And that means well, that's what I mean. Like he had like a surprise, like what? Like wait, what? What'd you just say? Type of look on his face in a way. And yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't go very far. But honestly, I'm trying to think because I don't want to because I've been kind of checked out of it largely for my own sanity. Um, I've been trying to think if there's anything he's done this first couple weeks that I'm like, now that was a wrong decision. And so far, I can't think of anything. There's a lot of stuff that might come down the pike. We'll see what happens with the tax code because he's promised to overhaul that before and didn't
Right.
happen.
Right.
We'll see what happens with the deportations and things because that needs to happen. We
Right.
gotta figure out who's in this damn country. It's
Oh,
outrageous
but he's got a pit bull
what's
on
going on.
that, dude. Homan.
He does.
Yeah.
Hopefully it stays that way. Hopefully it
Yeah.
increases and we get all these violent psychos out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Even just that would be enough. I mean, honestly, we
yeah,
should remove all the illegals. But if all we can really get is just getting the criminals out, dude, I'm good with that. That's 2 million people, dude.
at
Right?
least, yeah, at least
Um,
2 million.
and Roger, hold on a second. Roger,
Uh,
yeah, I understand we're idiots. I get it. But explain to me what you mean. What is it you think Trump is actually doing? What is your theory? What is your idea? Please.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of let's see. I love what he's doing right now. I love the energy. The American people clearly do. There's an uptick. We've seen
Yes.
unemployment go up. I mean, go down. Excuse me. And it's going and in a very no, in a very interesting way, right? Because
Yeah.
this is the thing that, of course, the press is not covering. But what you're seeing is a lot of because remember I said before these racist Democrats are on about who's going to pick our lettuce, and I said, well,
Mhm.
actually, when I lived in America, most of the Mexicans, big air quotes, were in construction,
Yes.
right, not farming.
Yeah.
But and of course, when this started with Homan, these job sites just absolutely emptied. And of course, you can then say, well, what's wrong with these damn companies hiring illegals? The problem is there. Fair enough. But here's the thing: now they're desperate, and what's happened? American citizens, actual American citizens, have walked up and got jobs instantly because they're desperate. So they
Yes.
said, "You Americans ain't going to do this job." Clearly, they wanted the job because now they're getting them. You're
They're
also
not
seeing a
gonna
lot
do
more
it for
investment.
pennies
Well, they're not going to
because
do it for under the table, half
right,
minimum
there's too
wage.
much
No,
risk to do it like
no,
that.
and they shouldn't. They shouldn't have to. Of
Yes.
course,
Yeah.
part of that problem is the various costs involved and everything else. That's starting to overwhelm labor, right?
Yes,
Um,
which he's working on that too, deregulation.
right.
Well, and it's not even deregulation because people hear that word and they think they're just getting rid of it. No, no,
Okay.
he's simplifying it.
Roger's just trolling us. He won't answer. I
He's
see.
he's refining it, the regulations. It's not that he's getting rid of them. Like Trump's been a builder. Again, people forget he's been a builder his whole life. I
Yeah,
don't
no.
think he's necessarily against the concept of building code. He's against it being retarded. He's against it being so vague and so massive that it could mean anything and nothing at the same time,
Yeah.
which is what a lot of these regulations are. And that needs to change. The regulations need to be very precise for a very precise problem, very simple language. We don't need to get all up in the weeds with legalese and just get it done. And that's what you're going to see. He did it last time too. In fairness to him, he did I think his first year it was like one for every 25. There was one new regulation for every 25. I think that's the number, something like that, that they were slashing for that first year, which is a good thing. That's not a
Well,
bad
dude,
thing.
from Trump to Biden, in that period, the
Yeah,
America effectively, we're talking about inflation and all kind of little things, but it adds up to an $8,000 swing annually in the average American's pocket. That's the difference
yes,
between Trump and Biden. $8,000, right?
which is a lot.
Which is a
It's a
lot.
lot of money.
And of course, you have these idiots talk about your avocados will be more expensive. Once again, I can eat an apple. But even if you want your avocados, if we add up all this tariffing, this reciprocal tariffing he wants to do, right? Which he should.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to put a 30% VAT on us, well, fine, we'll put a 30% VAT on you. That's all he's talking
right,
about doing, right?
right.
Equal tariffing, taxing, right? But even if he does that, would you like to guess how much more a year you'll have to pay?
I don't know
Eight
how
hundred
much.
dollars.
Oh no,
Yeah,
oh no, not
eight
that.
hundred dollars.
Anything,
And if
anything but that.
he can do what he did the first time, which I don't see no reason for him not to, and he can lower the inflation, raise your overall effect of your money, and
Yeah,
maybe even get you more money, possibly. But even you don't really even need that; just the other things are enough. It basically cancels it out in spades, right?
right,
So,
right.
and this is
Which is the
what he's
plan.
yeah, which is what his this
That's the
plan is.
plan.
That's what he's getting at.
Yeah,
And keep in mind, these other countries around the world, all of them are 20 to 30%. They might call it VAT or tariff or whatever they call it. It is a 30% tax on our stuff, 20, 30% all over the world. And they seem to be working just fine. So why can't we?
right. Exactly. Well, because he's correct, and I've been. It's one of the reasons I stopped, considering myself a libertarian. When I realized that these people, their ideology is just as globalistic as communism, and basically the effect is the same. You're going to just concentrate power as much as you can into a group of people who have no rhyme, reason, or concern to make sure that the people are taken care of, the commons, the heritage, things that really matter at the end of your life, the end of everybody's life,
Yeah.
is what we leave behind. And these people have no concern for that. Why would they have a concern for that? They don't care. It doesn't affect their bottom line. So they don't care at all. Anyway, you have those sorts of people who are against tariffs. And it's interesting that it's the libertarians and the communists, or the Marxists, if you will, who are very anti tariff. And the reason that is because they want to either hoard resources by having this idea of global free trade, which isn't real. It's never
Well,
been
if it
real.
were real,
It'll,
that would be fine. I'd be good with that.
but it's
If we
not
had a
going to
well,
be.
no, but if we
Right.
had a true global free market, I'm cool with that. 100%.
Yeah, we do. It's called the black market. That's
Yeah.
that's what that is.
Yeah. But you know what I mean,
But
though. I'd be good with that.
I'd be fine with it too, except it doesn't exist and it never
No, it
will
doesn't.
because governments are going to make sure of it and powerful people are going to make sure of it. Um,
Only if it's
so,
enforced, and we enforce it on Japan and we enforce it on Germany, and that's why they grew so quickly. We did enforce free market on them,
well, the
and
other
it
thing you
worked.
can do is you enforce the best way to do it is to have a nationalized free market, meaning within your own
Yeah, well, that's what
territory.
Japan does, right? Yeah.
And that's basically what America does too. You can trade between the states fairly freely, right?
Right.
Uh, but my point is, they want the same thing, and the reason they're against the tariffs is it's a threat to their ideal system. The problem is their ideal system is utopian, and it doesn't take into account, or maybe it does, and they just ignore it, that greed exists regardless. It doesn't matter what system you create. It doesn't matter if you have this noble communism or you have this noble libertarianism, noble anarcho-capitalism. It's all great on paper, but people aren't on paper. People exist in the real world. And in the real world, sometimes you want a little bit more for yourself, or a lot more, or all of it. And when that happens, all of your great ideals go away because then the only option is force. That's all that's left is to make these people that don't want to share. Okay, then the problem becomes the people who do that are the ones who become the kings. And that's what happens with communism. That's what would happen in anarcho
Yeah,
capitalism
sure.
with warlords.
Yeah.
So the solution that I'm getting at is in the middle of these two things. And the best way to do that is you don't tax your own people. A tariff is not a tax on its own people. A tariff is a tax on those trying to enter the market where the people are. One of the things that economists should teach, and unfortunately most of them do not, is that economics is not the study of money, economics is the study of people. Because that's exactly what it is. The market is the demonstrated interests of individuals and groups of people at large. That's all it is. What your interest, supply and demand, right? What you're interested in, the market will typically provide within reason, of course. Um, these things are how people behave, it's how people exchange, it's how people live. All of that is what you're studying in economics. Now, we use other language, of course, and things to dehumanize it as much as possible. But the reality is, it's just the study of people. And when you start to understand that if you tax the market directly, instead of taxing people who want to enter the market, you're doing nothing but hurting the people long term. And that's what the last 100 years has done. The direct taxation into the American and global markets, instead of trying to tax the externals, the externalities that want to come into the market, has done nothing but make us poorer. The average American is more poor than their grandfather was
I
on the whole.
absolutely am. Yeah.
The
Holy
reason being is because we
shit,
keep
dude.
taxing that market, which shouldn't be taxed, instead of taxing those who want to enter it.
I
Holy, holy
just
shit.
went to check the score on the Super Bowl. The
Oh, is it
Eagles
bad?
are absolutely blowing them out, dude.
Amazing.
Mammoths, 40-6 Eagles.
So Trump's president again and Super Bowl stopped being rigged. Interesting.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, God, blowing them out.
Yeah.
That okay. I just wanted to check it. And it's almost over. There's only like 5 minutes left in the fourth, and it's a blowout. So they'll just kind of lean into it. But there is a little thing with the Super Bowl I want to mention. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably am. But didn't isn't Trump like isn't he like part owner or part of the business of Caesars?
I believe so, yeah.
I
Caesar,
think
you mean like
so,
Caesar's
right?
Palace
He's
and them?
part of it. Yeah, Caesar's Palace. He's part of the Caesars organization in some way or another. I don't know if he owns it straight out. I don't think so, but I know he's involved. Did you notice that the Superdome was rebuilt by Caesars?
Interesting. I
Yeah,
didn't know that. It's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's interesting that the Super Bowl is a blowout. I haven't been paying attention. How long has it been since it's been this big of a blowout? It's been a
that's
while, I know.
huge, dude. It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
it's a big one.
That's a
Big one.
mega blowout.
It's
And
a
especially because the golden child there on the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, who people complain about constantly that he gets unfair treatment or fair, in the positive. Because that's a constant thing I hear. People are upset with the NFL because it's like they're orchestrating a soap opera, meaning they're controlling the outcomes of games, rigging it
right.
for a narrative. And it's like, you know, I'm not I'm not an idiot. I'm sure these kind of things have happened in the past, but it was never ever brought up or spoken about by anybody. So this is a new thing. Boxing, yeah, sure, but football? So it's like, how long has that been going on? Because last time I was actually paying attention before they got all woke, I didn't see any of that. Even with the Patriots, because yeah, they won a bunch of stuff, but they lost a lot too.
Yes.
So when did that start? When did this kind of orchestrated rigging, when's that how long has that been a thing?
I don't know. It's because listen, I've thought this is my tinfoil hat for the day. I've thought for a very long time that pretty much all pro sports are rigged,
Yeah, there's a
in
there's a
some way
chance
or the
that's
other.
true. Yeah.
There's a massive financial incentive for them to do so.
Sure.
Massive. Like look at last year with the Chiefs and the whole Taylor Swift and Kelsey situation, their whole love story,
Who
and how much
cares?
that generated. Well, women do. How much the interest
Oh.
that generated in the sport, whether you like it or not, it worked. The marketing campaign uh,
Yeah,
just
Taylor's the thing,
absolutely
dude.
worked. So my point is that I'm getting at is the incentive financially is right there, right? It's right there. So if they just like the reason pro wrestling used to be real, it used to be 100% real
Oh,
about
way
a
back,
hundred
yeah.
120 years ago. Then they were like, well, the matches take too long, people get bored. What if we just fix it? And they did, and that's pretty much how pro wrestling became a work. Um, I would be very surprised if the NFL, one of the most big money things in the world, organizations, if one of the most big money organizations in the world didn't have, they obviously have a vested interest in ensuring that X, Y, or Z team wins. Whoever has the best story. One of the last time my former team, the Steelers, won was Bill Cowher's last year. Bill Cowher, beloved coach. Everybody loved him, respected him, blah, 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 blah. Jerome Bettis, also a similar situation, beloved player. Let me try that again. Was retiring as well, and they just happened to win the Super Bowl that year because the story was the best story. The refs helped them big time, but the story was the best story. And this is common, right? Like, it's very strange that the best story, the best narrative, is the one that keeps winning. Whether it's the Patriots winning after 9/11, which was like a year later, whether it was the Saints coming out of nowhere, because the Saints were a terrible joke of a team since always, right? They
Right.
literally called the Aints, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden they're winning the Super Bowl out of nowhere. After Katrina, like, these sorts of things is what made me go, hmm. I've been watching some pro wrestling a minute now. Hmm. Is this a work? Did they rig this somehow? Because it's really not as complicated as you think. You just have to have the refs make the right calls at the right time, and typically that's enough to swing it. So I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. It makes sense on the back of all their tickets. It does say that this is for entertainment purposes only. The event that you're watching,
Hmm.
which means they can do anything they want at that point
Yeah,
because
that's true.
yeah,
But if we think about, you talk about it not being a work and possibly being a work, because keep in mind this Mahomes kid, which I've never seen him play, he might be great. Um, we have, I don't know what, like 4 to 8 quarterbacks that have back-to-back Super Bowl rings, right? Of course, what's his name there with the Patriots, who's a really good quarterback, Brady, Tom Brady's got it. Because who are our back-to-back Super Bowl winners? We got Packers, Patriots,
mhm.
of
Steelers.
course. You got Steelers, you got
Yep.
49ers did it, Cowboys certainly did it. I think
Yep.
the Broncos did it there with that Elway guy, right? And I think I'm pretty sure we had that really hot Dolphins team in the 70s did it too, didn't they?
They did not. They won one.
Okay.
They went
But
undefeated.
anyway, that's a
I
bunch.
believe it was only one.
So
It was only
maybe it's one of those records like the Undertaker they don't want broken yet.
yeah, the streak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they did break it eventually, but yes. But yeah, no, it's very strange. It's very strange because I remember in the 90s and the early 2000s, the Super Bowl always sucked because it was always a blowout, right? The other team would just get washed. And it was like that for years.
It
And then all of a
was.
sudden,
Yeah.
for some reason, the games got real close. And well, granted, are far more interesting to watch, but it was just weird. It was just weird
Yeah.
how and it happened like that
I
for
don't know.
years. All of a sudden, the
Yeah.
games were much closer. So yeah, this is total tinfoil hat
It
conspiracy. I
is,
don't
but I've
know
heard
if
a
it's
lot of
real.
people moaning about it the
A
past
lot of
so
people
many
are
years.
like,
Yeah.
things that
But
make you go, hmm.
yeah, and that's unfortunate. Just let him play. But of course, he's talking about NFC AFC when they combined the two disparate leagues into one, the NFL. What was that, 60s? 60s, I think, late
60s,
60s,
yeah.
something like that.
69, I believe, was the first
69.
Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. So the problem was one of them was nowhere near the same level as the other, and it took a while for things to balance. And
Yeah.
I don't know if they've even done that, but nevertheless, it doesn't matter. But that's a ridiculous blowout at a Super Bowl, 40-6. Damn, damn. And
Yeah,
who
that's
who
bad.
knows? They I don't know how the Eagles coach is. He might want to run it up, right?
He might. He might. He might do it.
'Cause I've seen Tom
Just
Brady do that. Yeah, old Tom,
why
he's
not?
an amazing quarterback, because that's a
Ah,
winner,
yeah,
right?
Tom Brady.
But no, he
The
is though,
bane of
whether you
my
like him or
existence,
not.
Tom Brady.
But old Tom, he can get vindictive.
Have you seen Tom lately? Tom is
No,
clearly gotten himself in some of the best shape of his life.
Hey, good for him.
He is straight up chiseled looking, which he
Yeah,
never
and
really was as a player. He was always a little pudgy. But yeah, he's in phenomenal condition after he retired.
yeah,
But
and he
he did an
unburdened
interview
himself
recently.
of what had been.
Yes, he did. He did a interview recently with ESPN or whatever, one of those places, and they asked him what he, about players, about watching players, and he said what he used to do as a quarterback, one of the things that he did and that he likes to watch for in quarterbacks is he knew exactly where everybody was going to be before he snapped the ball. 100%. Didn't matter what play they were running. And he did on the defense too. At least he tried to, right?
Sure,
He tried to always know where everybody was going to be, where they
that
were
makes
coming from, the
sense.
way they were coming.
It's his
And it
job.
was that was his superpower, he said, because he had studied and studied and studied and like studied to ridiculous levels. I mean, it cost him his marriage, to be honest, because he was just obsessed with making sure he had the knowledge that he
Dude, I
needed
think she
to
just
do
wanted
his
a
job.
strange dick. Let's be fair.
Well, I mean, listen, it's probably, but we're gonna take her at her word and say it was the football. We'll take her at her word and say it was the football. Um, but my point is Tom, the reason he was such a good because remember, Tom shouldn't have been. He wasn't supposed to be one of these guys that was going to be the next great thing. The reason he was is because when you get to that level, for the most part, except for rare exceptions, these athletes are basically the same, right? They're running this very similar times when they're doing drills, and they're very similar physical strength and aptitude. It's a mental game more than anything at that level because these guys, I mean, you can watch college players versus pro players. It's night and day how much faster and more explosive those pro players are.
Oh yeah,
Um, Even though they're older, typically they're older than the younger guys. They just are
it's the
they're at a
training.
different level.
Yeah,
It's the training, yes, and the mental training especially is what separates the wheat from the chaff in
yeah,
the NFL or in any level of pro sport.
that's true.
And Tom Brady was telling them, a lot of these quarterbacks, what they can do is they can run out and they can do their little do their get out in the open and do their thing, but it's nothing like what you can do, what he or a Peyton Manning or a Drew Brees or any of these kind of generals, if you will, could do. And it's the reason why they were so much more successful.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
anyway,
It's
my point
earned.
is with
It's
this
100% earned.
is
Yeah.
is Mr. Brady is unfortunately the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. And I say unfortunately because when I cared about the NFL, it was my Steelers that he was usually knocking out of the playoffs
Yeah,
so
he
he could
beat
go
the
to the
hell out of the
Super Bowl.
Steelers a
Son
lot.
of a
Yeah, he
bitch.
did. He did. Them and the Baltimore Ravens. Uh, but
Oh.
um, but yeah, no, I mean, he truly is. I mean, if you want to go pure talent and athletic ability, you might want to go like a Peyton Manning or something like that. But old Tom, he got it done, dude. I mean, he's just a winner. And he was a great quarterback. I actually enjoy the fact that although this guy, the commercials, the Super Bowl commercials are a little bit better this year. There's still some woke bullshit in there, but it was a little bit better than it's been in a while. But I love this
Mhm.
guy saying, yeah, it is better. But he showed a couple of pre-woke ads from the Super Bowl, and to kind of remind us. And oh, dude, it was so much better in the past, so much funnier, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
do miss the Super Bowl commercials being hilarious. They
yeah,
were genuinely funny.
yeah, but I did see a couple this year that made me chuckle, and that's the Peyton, because since we're talking about them, the Peyton brother, excuse me, the Manning brothers just busting each other's balls in commercials. It's great. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
great.
saw that. That is
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
funny.
yeah. But
Just
I
just
have to,
funny.
unfortunately, I do believe the older brother got the better of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure. 100%.
Yeah, but because they're actually both pretty nice guys, and they love interacting with the public and doing things. I would say that Eli is probably even better than his brother at that, but they do love just interacting with the world of football, and that's wonderful, right? Because some quarterbacks have not been very good about it. They're more private people, like Brett Favre, right? Great quarterback,
Right.
but he didn't really like to be in the limelight, oddly enough. But
Right.
the Manning brothers, they love it. They eat it up.
They do. They do seem to enjoy it, which is good. Good.
Yeah, it is good. It's
Um,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
cool.
Super Bowl was a wash for the Chiefs fans. Oh, they'll be all right.
Oh, yeah.
Poor
Well, they
baby.
got
They'll
two
be
Super
okay.
Bowls.
They did.
So it's cool. But Yeah, good on the Eagles, I guess. It seems like Super Bowl commercials are allowed to sexualize boobs again, but maybe that was just because it was a breast cancer commercial. Maybe, Joshua. But no, it's clearly a little bit better, but they're far from what they were. And it's going to take
The world
time.
is healing.
Yeah,
The
it's
world
going to
is
take time.
healing.
Uh, but
Yep.
uh, but yeah, we need to just get this damn TEI stuff completely out of everything and just melt it. But you know, I'm glad that for the Eagles. Have they ever won a Super Bowl before? I know they've been
I
in the
don't.
Super Bowl. I
I
thought
don't believe so. I
uh,
believe this is
didn't
their first one.
didn't the Seahawks knock them out one year or something?
Something like that. Yeah. I believe
Yeah,
this is their first.
the
Their
Battle of the
first W.
Birds. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So good
Which
for
good
them.
for them.
Yeah,
For the Browns.
yeah, right. Or of course, the absolute worst team to be
The
a fan for is the Minnesota Vikings. And I said
Viking. Well, the
that.
Lions aren't much better either.
No,
The Lions
well,
aren't much better
but
either.
I mean, it's pretty rough being a Minnesota Viking fan, and it's kind of unfortunate because they got it's one of the coolest potential teams, Vikings, right?
The
But no, oh
Vikings.
Minnesota, yeah, yeah, your
Yeah.
team sucks.
Purple people eaters.
Yep,
My truck is purple, and I call it the Purple People Eater in honor
in
of the
honor.
Minnesota
In
Vikings.
honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. But of course, I grew up in New England, so I was always been a Patriot fan. Although, I did like other stuff. My dad's from the South, and he was a big Dallas Cowboy fan, so I watched quite a bit of that. I liked even the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. I enjoyed watching them for some reason. Oakland Raiders, just because they're cool, but they're not Oakland anymore. They moved them again. Where are they now?
Yeah. Yes. Um, Vegas, I think.
I think it's Vegas, which is
Yeah, I think they
weird.
moved to
That's a
Vegas.
weird
Yeah.
thing. But has that team is that the team that's moved around the most? It might well be.
They moved around a lot.
They
Well,
have.
them and the Rams. The Rams have moved around a lot too.
Where are the Rams at
Um,
now?
think LA? I don't know. I
They're
honestly don't
back
know.
in
I don't pay
LA?
attention.
All right.
I don't pay attention. I completely checked out of the NFL over a decade ago, at least.
Yeah.
Uh, I definitely checked out finally when my team's coach, the piece of crap that he is, made Villanueva come apologize for walking out for the anthem. You know, he was a former Army Ranger, one of his linemen. Walked out for the anthem and tried to stay out of sight just because he wanted to be out there. And they made him apologize publicly because he embarrassed the team. Shut up, shut up. You're
The
getting paid millions of dollars to be
Steelers?
there.
The
Yeah.
Steelers are woke? What?
Well, Mike Tomlin, he's an idiot. But
He's a
yeah,
pretty
that
good coach
happened.
though.
That was not really. He's not really. He's very overrated. Um, especially since he came off of the heels of Cowher. But regardless, yeah, that's what drove me away from it forever. Once that happened, I was like, no, all the political posturing and stuff. Nobody watches football for that. Literally, no, not a single person's watching.
Right.
Like, I wonder what 83's political opinions are. Nope, don't care. Couldn't
Don't
give a
care.
shit.
I mean, it
Don't
was
care.
bad enough that they were constantly doing that breast cancer thing, and it's like,
Yep.
okay, fine. Well, how about prostate cancer? How about that?
Right.
No,
Right.
no,
No. With a sport dominated by men, by the way, only men play it. But no, no,
yeah,
we don't get to talk about that. Only the boobies.
yeah,
Only the boobies.
yeah. Unbelievable. But nevertheless,
Ah,
it's time. I'm not even going to bother
it's
bringing up
time.
the webpage. I'm just going to leave it as this.
Just
And
leaving it here.
It was fun, and I just wanted to remind you that there's a couple of memes that have popped up recently that made me laugh. One was old Kamala, her face put on the scarecrow, and basically just below, "If I only had a brain." It's beautiful, beautiful. The other great meme I've seen is Donald Trump surrounded by all those little girls being super grandpa. It was such a wonderful feeling that moment, right? For such a dumb thing. But it was a wonderful thing. It was such a grandpa moment. All the girls were happy. And then right next to it, juxtaposed, is a few pictures of Biden sniffing kids. Can you tell the
What?
difference?
No, it's again, we're not big Trump guys, really. We do like what he's been doing,
I
and
love
we
what
think
he's
he's
doing.
funny.
Yeah.
Uh,
I like the
but
new
it's just
Trump, dude. I like the new Trump.
it's really nice to have a president again.
It
It just
is,
feels
dude.
good. He's trying to do things. It might none of it might work. There's a chance, but he's trying to do things, and
He
that's
is. And I like the
oh
tone and
gosh.
tenor. And of course John Kennedy, who is an absolute hoot, if you want to listen to an actual senator getting people's ass. But John Kennedy, I think he's down in New Orleans, right? He's
Yes.
a Louisiana boy. But he summed it up perfectly. Ain't it cool having a president again?
Oh, it is. It truly is. It
Yeah,
truly, truly is.
yeah, it is.
Ah,
And like I said, we had I know I did and you as well. Plenty of reservations about Trump in the first time, and I like some
yep.
of the things, other things I wish he would knock it off. But this Trump we got right now is not the same man. He's not. And I love what he's doing, and we'll see. I mean, it could completely fall out from under him. There
Yep.
could be machinations going on that we don't know of that are horrible. We don't know. But I think everyone has that feeling, but everyone is willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and sit back and say, "All right, we'll take a little pain, go at it." Right?
Yes.
I mean, and cool. I'm here for
It
it.
it done.
Get it
It
done.
has to happen.
Get it done.
Nobody wants the world where America no longer exists. I know a lot of people, especially foreigners, don't like America or are indifferent to it,
Oh, they'll
but I am
moan and
telling you,
whine about it. Yeah.
you have no idea what you're again, apparently this is also the theme of the day, Chester. Be careful what you wish for,
Yeah.
because you just might get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because just to keep China in check. I mean, China, their economy is a mess. Their country's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But money doesn't mean anything to them, right? They just print more of
Yeah.
it. They can enforce their will. This is a totalitarian government that has no restriction. Whereas pretty much all the other governments in the world, like America, have restrictions, right? Voting and stuff
Allegedly,
like that.
yes.
Well, I
Yes.
mean, but China doesn't. So they are a constant threat until they are no more, as far as the CCP is concerned.
Right.
Because that's a country that you talk about healing. That's a country that desperately needs some healing, dude. Desperately.
Yeah.
And it would be good for the whole world if they could do so. Nevertheless, thank you all very much. Do keep in mind, 2 days we have our drone, our Dolman Wood. We're continuing with that. We're actually going in the Undercroft, and I'm sure there's 2 or 3 layers there we have to deal with, but it's cool. Classic dungeon crawl. And of course,
Dungeon crawl.
this week we have Drone Recorded Ultimate Edition, and I do believe we are what we're doing is pretty cool. Um, we're doing Captain America in honor of the new movie, but not in the way you think. They can draw Captain America as anyone they like other than Anthony Mackie.
Poor Anthony Mackie. It sucks to be him.
It does. Takes
I
out of
mean,
you.
he's a billionaire, so he'll be all right. Hey,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
trying to
he's
find the word
boring
I'm looking
idiot,
for.
dude. Go ahead.
He is. He is. It's true. He is a very boring man. Where is the one I want, Chester?
I don't
Of
know.
course, I can't find it now. I can't find. I found it. It's okay. Everybody, calm down. I found it. All right. This one, because we were talking about a lot of things today. We talked a little bit about nature. We talked a little bit about keeping nature beautiful, things of this nature. Haha. I'm going to read this one. I haven't done it in a while. I would rather live poor and surrounded by the bounty and beauty of nature than die rich surrounded by the bounty and ugly of man. Beauty is the measure of the universe's wonder and the measure of our love. You know it when you see it because you know it without seeing it.
Sounds like that hippie Jesus. Namaste. Later, everybody.
Woo, it's hot as hell in here.